over to the east, now encompassing Bibb County, Jones County, areas like Houston County, Peach County, down to Macon County, and even getting into Dooley and Crisp County. So you guys are all under severe thunderstorm warnings now. But the main concern is going to be up here in Monroe County, moving over into areas like Jones County right now. So we just took a look at that possible rotation. The possible couplet could be right over here to the east of Forsyth. Still not confirmed on the ground as of right now. We will update you if we do get confirmation that there is a tornado on the ground, but right now I'm not seeing any notifications on my watch and haven't seen any from the National Weather Service thus far. But let's go ahead and take a look at our correlation coefficient, which is kind of an indication about possible non-meteorological elements that the radar is able to pick up. So that's why you see potential lofted debris up here on the header. Typically, you kind of look for some outliers. Now, I know all of these scattered colors look like a whole bunch of non-meteorological elements, but we really look for a lot of these colors and maybe some blue and maybe some yellows bunched up together within a big widespread swath of kind of a maroon and pink. We're not seeing any indications of that. If anything, it might be a little bit right there, but that is not very definitive whatsoever. So that's a promising sign to see right now. And along with this, not seeing anything in the way of hail. That was a possible implication and a concern we were looking at with your severe weather that was continuing to be highlighted over the past 24 hours or so. So once again, if you're just now joining us, just now tuning into 13 WMAZ, this live radar image is taking away from the main message that I'm trying to reiterate, which I will pop back up here on the satellite and radar. That is going to be a tornado warning that has been issued for Monroe and Jones counties, and that's going to go all the way until the 7 a.m. hour. This wasn't necessarily the couplet of possible rotation we have been monitoring. That was actually down in areas like Taylor County early this morning, where we did see a tornado warning to the west of us, but this one kind of popped up virtually out of nowhere, and we are going to continue to monitor this right here, where I am continuing to see that this little kink, this little notch that's going a bit inward into this big swath of some green with the newest radar scan actually looks less and less impressive. So that is a promising sign. Hopefully this was just some rotation that's higher up in the sky, not necessarily that is anything reaching the surface, and we will continue to see this trend over to the east as this line of storms does continue to push through. But nonetheless, this is still at the very least a severe thunderstorm warning. We're already talking about some wind gusts that have been up to 50 and 60 miles per hour in some isolated pockets already this morning. And along with that, you are dealing with some heavy rain, and you are going to have at least some scattered lightning. It hasn't necessarily been clumped up together too much, but right now we're around 6:30 in the morning, and I know this is the time that many of you are maybe getting your kids ready for the bus stop. I am going to advise anyone going outside, especially up in Monroe and Jones County right now. However, if you are noticing things like quite a light show outside, some heavy rainfall, I would advise staying inside. If your kids miss the bus, that is going to be fine by all means. It's going to be better to be safe than sorry, because I promise this is an environment that you do not want to be outside for at the very least. So now let's take a look at what is going to be on kind of the eastern half of this box, because I feel like we talked a lot about where it is, and we're going to circle back to those localized areas in just a second. But Round Oak and Gray, also over into Jones County, you guys are also included in this tornado warning. This does not mean that there is a tornado directly outside over in Jones County. This is still a good ways away back in Monroe County. The areas of immediate concern that do look like that possible circulation is right there in the near vicinity of are going to be these roads that I have been continuing to name. So Menard Church Road, Colvin Road. Let's continue to take it a little bit over to the east, talking about Lee King Road. There's this Camellia Drive, and this is Berry Drive. I've got to tilt my head, sorry, because those are vertical words right there. All along Georgia Highway 18. So if you are along Highway 18 over in eastern Monroe County, maybe eastern central Monroe County, you guys are going to need to make sure that you are taking cover. If you are getting out and about and you're hearing maybe something in the way of tornado sirens as you're walking outside, that means that you need to go ahead and head back inside. That doesn't mean necessarily a tornado is directly on your doorstep or directly out in the woods where you can't see it, but it is going to be in the near vicinity. And I'm always going to tell you it is better to be safe than sorry when it does come to these tornado-warned storms, even if it doesn't mean that there is actual confirmation on the ground of a tornado. And what I'm continuing to see with these new radar scans that come in with their velocity, it is indicating some broadening, at least in that possible couplet of rotation. But along with that, we're just not really seeing the kink to the degree that we were just a second ago, where we actually had a patch of some red really pushing up against this wide swath of green. But this green is going to be damaging enough in itself. We're talking about those 50 to 60 mile per hour straight line winds. The winds can be rotating, the winds could be coming straight at you, but they are going to be to the degree and the magnitude that are going to cause damage, like downing some trees, possibly downing some power lines, and this possible rotation and really the warning itself almost going parallel to Georgia Highway 18 that goes from Forsyth all the way over to eastern Monroe County, closer to the Dames Ferry area right there on the Monroe and Jones County line. Does look like we're continuing to get some updates on these severe thunderstorm warnings. And then we are going to take a little bit of a closer look. Let's go a little bit farther east along Highway 18, where we do see is this Abarez Road right there. And then we'll continue to go Jenkins Lane, Jenkins Road. I believe this is Rum Creek Drive. So those areas, a little bit farther down Highway 18, but if I'm naming any roads that sound familiar, they sound like they're within about a 5 to 10 minute drive of you, make sure that you're going to go ahead and go inside. Maybe one of those more interior bathrooms that you do have with no windows. You want to stay away from windows because those are going to act as not too good of a shield if something is flying around in the form of debris outside. That's going to crash through windows very easily, more so than what it would with, say, maybe a brick wall or just something in the way of general drywall or maybe some plastic siding in the house. So stay away from windows first and foremost, but try to get into an interior-most room in your house. Or if you have a basement, that is going to be a very good option in order for taking shelter within this tornado-warned storm that we continue to monitor. So now it does appear that I'm seeing this rotation maybe stick out a little bit more closer to the SMAR area. So right now, what we typically look for on these velocity windows are going to be your general S signature. So that's kind of what we're seeing right here. That's indicating some winds moving in and resulting in a bit of a kink, but also some winds that are moving out a little bit. So that's why we see the towards, we see the away right here on the legend. So our radar that we're monitoring is down in Jeffersonville. So these winds right around SMAR are moving towards the radar. These winds, they're supposed to be in the red color, but sometimes we have a bit of a iffy scenario with what the actual colors are, but they are moving away from the radar. So what that is actually going to continue to do is going to be this. So winds moving towards the radar, which I will draw like this, and then we'll have winds that are moving away from the radar. And basically, they are going to continue to circulate one another. So these winds coming down, these winds going up, and that's resulting in some possible spin. It's a bit better if I'm, say, holding something like a tire right here or just a long cylinder. These winds going this way, these winds going that way, and that's resulting in the spinning of that cylinder. So this is what we are looking out for right now. It does look like it's a little bit south of Georgia Highway 18 as of now, just over to the east of SMAR. So let me go ahead and clear off these arrows so we can get a bit more localized with these areas closer to SMAR now as opposed to what we were really thinking. But still, if you are up along Highway 18, Georgia Highway 18 right here, you still need to be in your tornado safe space. I'm not giving you the all clear by any means, but it does appear that the possible signs of maybe some rotation that's higher aloft is maybe going kind of directly along I-75 right now. So Highway 41, it does look like this couplet's a little bit past that, but still continue to be in your tornado safe space. If you live right there around the SMAR area, and then right here off I-75, there's got to be an exit right here. Rumble Road exit. That's going to be obviously a pretty familiar place, especially with some of our news topics, right where they're building the new Buc-ee's. Rumble Road, Jenkins Road, and then you get over to areas a little bit farther of I-75. I think there's a couple up here that I want to go ahead and talk about. Jenkins Road, Deer Creek Road, what is this? Little Collier Road, Lee King Circle, Nature's Trail, all of those roads. If that sounds familiar, once again, head into your tornado safe space. This is not something that you need to super freak out for and scramble and go run and get everything. Just take a deep breath, remain calm. This is not a tornado that is confirmed on the ground. However, you are just going to want to make sure you're shielding yourself from all those outside elements because we are nonetheless at least seeing some very gusty winds, whether they're rotating or whether they're of the straight line nature, and that can blow things like loose items around like debris all across central Georgia. So I want to continue to make sure that I am monitoring this whole situation because Monroe County, Jones County, not just the only areas that are seeing some impacts. This is a line of some very heavy rain, some very gusty winds, some severe thunderstorms that we are going to continue to look out for those tornado warned storms within. However, this continuous line of severe thunderstorms is beginning its push into areas like Peach County, Bibb County now, over into the eastern half of Macon County, portions of western Dooley, and eventually making its way over into areas like Macon, Warner Robins, Perry, Unadilla, Vienna, down to Cordele. And that's going to be very likely within the next 30 minutes or so, because both of these severe thunderstorm warnings that have been issued, this first one going until 7 a.m., and then the one just to the north of it is going to be, I believe, till 7 a.m. as well, but it's obviously going to pick up something in the way of rotation in that tornado warning as opposed to just the general severe thunderstorm warning. So areas that are a little bit more broad, not as localized as what we were talking about where that couplet is, but I want to play it better safe than sorry, like I already told you. Bolingbroke, Forsyth, Juliet, Round Oak, Gray. If you live near any of those areas, go ahead and make sure that you are inside. Make sure that you are tuning into this coverage until I can give you the all clear that this tornado warned storm has been allowed to expire. Obviously, tornado warning is not going to impact all of those areas I just named, but you are in a tornado warning and you need to take it seriously because we can see this rotation maybe wiggle and wobble a little bit like we were talking about. We thought it was more so going directly to the east. It looks like it kind of moved down to the south just a little bit, or maybe even up here to the north. So there are a couple areas of some kinks that we are continuing to monitor on this line. Nothing that's necessarily definitive of a confirmed tornado, but actually I'm going to want to turn my attention up here, because this is kind of a general trend that I have seen so far with some of these possible signatures of rotation. So first and foremost, we have seen that these lines are moving over to the east, but we have a southwesterly breeze present. So that's continuing to blow anything up along this frontal boundary up to the northeast. So I do believe this might actually be the couplet that we are continuing to monitor on the northern side of this box. It wasn't as definitive in nature as it was maybe just a little bit ago, but we also see this kink down here near Bolingbroke. Like I mentioned, obviously maybe two possible signatures of rotation, not necessarily definitive of what I would say a tornado on the ground. However, we are looking at pretty widespread impacts, at least in the form of gusty winds. The lighter and brighter that these greens get, that does indicate some gustier winds in nature. So I would say just around the Juliet area and pretty close to Round Oak. So let's go ahead and talk about some localized areas near this possible center of circulation, which I don't have a lot of road names right here, but we can go over a little bit. This is more so into Jones County. Will Russell Road, Juliet Road. It is right here on the county line of Monroe and Jones counties. It looks like it's just creeping into that northwestern corner of Jones County. And then eventually you get into Jasper County, I believe, which is on the southern component of the severe thunderstorm warning. Hillsborough, Berner. It does look like Forsyth, you're relatively in the all clear in terms of things with this tornado warned storm. However, you are still seeing your fair share of gusty winds and some heavy rain outside, something you still don't want to be outside for. So two possible areas of rotation that we continue to monitor. This first one just to the east of Juliet right here, where we're starting to see this little patch of maybe even some light blue filter in, which light blue basically means that the winds are going even farther over to the brighter green side of that category. And then when you get to the brighter red side of things, that's where you're going to have some gustier winds in the other direction away from the radar. This is very broad right now, but it does look like this could be some possible spinning of maybe some lower level clouds that you could see outside. So anywhere between Juliet and Round Oak, continue to make sure you're staying inside in that tornado safe space. Down here near Bolingbroke, also another possible indication of some very broad rotation. So make sure that you're continuing to be in your tornado safe space. And everyone just needs to continue to make sure that you are remaining inside, especially along this line of some severe thunderstorm warnings. New event thunderstorm warning for Jasper and Greene County. Okay, so I've seen a couple new updates that are buzzing here on my watch. First and foremost is going to be your tornado watch, and this is what got issued overnight, and this is why we kind of have heightened our language a little bit, because we all have the potential for seeing something in the way of a brief spin-up tornado. Haven't gotten around to updating the timing, but it's going until 9 a.m. We'll call it 10 a.m. to be better safe than sorry once again, but we have seen some areas taken out of this watch. That's going to be Upson and Lamar counties as we continue to watch this line push farther over to the east. So it is going to be very good news to continue to issue this all clear. You are all clear from your tornado risk in areas like Upson County and Lamar County, but we still have all of central Georgia for the most part that is within this tornado watch. And once again, that's going until 9 a.m. And we have seen our easternmost counties extended into that tornado watch as well. So we'll circle back to your tornado warning right now. excuse me, getting a little bit of cotton mouth right here, but we are continuing to watch this kink right here. So one indication of possible very broad rotation just to the northeast of Bolingbroke. This is also in the pretty near vicinity of areas like Bass Road, Arkwright Drive, and areas of North Macon, Rivers Crossing. You guys are not necessarily in this tornado warning, but given the fact that we are seeing maybe 2 possible indications of maybe some very broad rotation, and you are still going to be within a severe thunderstorm warning, just continue to make sure that you are inside, trying to stay away from those windows. It's going to get a bit loud outside for the next 15 to 30 minutes, I would say so, and then you're going to be good to go for the remainder of your Thursday. I know it's a bit of an early wake-up call, but we had the same thing happen Monday into Tuesday night. At least your early wake-up call is happening about 20 minutes normally before the alarm goes off this morning, as opposed to in the middle of the night around 1 or 1:30 in the morning. So here's a look at your base velocity, where it continues to show kind of a bit of a snake shape, if you will. So once again, we kind of look out for those typical S shapes that we are going to see, indicating winds kind of dominating and going one way as opposed to the other. So there's a little bit of an S shape right here just to the west of Round Oak. That's what I think we were monitoring in terms of the possible rotation that really sprouted this tornado warning. Go down a little bit farther to the south into southeast Monroe County, just to the northeast of Bolingbroke. This is probably a more definitive S shape that we are seeing, but it's very large scale. A tornado would not be this large in nature. This is talking about maybe 5 to 10, maybe even 15 miles wide. They definitely don't get that big, so we definitely need a tighter couplet in order to see something indicating maybe a possible tornadic storm in nature. But it does look like we have seen some areas just trimmed out of that tornado warning. So for Forsyth, Juliet, and areas back over to the west, closer to I-75 in Monroe County, you guys are still going to be in the all clear, but still around Bolingbroke, I want you to remain in your tornado safe space, and you're still under a severe thunderstorm warning back over in Forsyth, so need to wait a little bit longer before making your way out the door. I know it might make you a little bit late for work, it might make the kids a little bit late for school, but I promise you it is going to be a decision that you will be very happy with, because if you were walking outside in this heavy rain and these gusty winds, I promise you, you would take a step right back inside. So this possible couplet right here, moving over to the east, maybe a little bit to the northeast, so western Jones County is kind of what we're on the lookout for now in terms of your tornado warning. When we came on the air, we were really talking more so about the downtown Forsyth area, areas along Highway 18. So now western Jones County, that's where you need to be making sure that you're in your tornado safe space. Areas like Round Oak and Gray that I was talking about, you guys are not going to walk outside and immediately see something in the way of a tornado. And we still don't have any confirmation that there is anything on the ground as of right now, but we also can continue to go down this line, and not even within the tornado warning, but right here around Lake Tobosoffke and Lake Wildwood, we're seeing another indication of some possible spinning, that S signature right here. So western Bibb County, not in a tornado warning necessarily, but I want to go ahead and get ahead of it. There could be a possible tornado warned storm over in western Bibb County, west of I-75, over the course of maybe the next 10 or 15 minutes. If we are to see this rotation hold together pretty strong, again, this is something, once again, we're just trying to be better safe than sorry about. If it doesn't end up being a tornado warned storm, then oh well, you took the proper precautions anyway, but we are going to continue to watch that as we see a little bit of light blue, and this is indicating kind of a tight couplet right there. So we'll continue to keep our eyes on that on the southern component, just to the south of this other tornado warning that we continue to have within the severe thunderstorm warning that is very widespread, moving across now basically the I-75 corridor here in central Georgia. So once again, pretty broad indications of rotation down here in southeast Monroe County. Let's go over very localized areas of all these areas that are seeing some possible rotation about some of these localized roads. So Round Oak and Juliet Road, and now I'm seeing some indications of possible more tornado warnings, and there we go. There's another one down here. Okay, over in Macon County that we just had issued. 7:30 a.m. is where this tornado warning is going to go for. Houston, Macon, Peach counties. Right now, the definitive rotation is not necessarily too definitive, but I would say it's somewhere within this general area. Northern Macon County, just to the south of Fort Valley, getting over into western and kind of southwestern Peach County, but Houston County, areas like Perry, Bonaire, Warner Robins, you guys are going to be included within this tornado warning, and it is going to go until 7:30. So we have about 45 more minutes on this tornado warning that did just get issued. I'm going to see if I can maybe pick up another radar image or maybe flash it over to the relative velocity if this gives me any bit of a better indication. We're seeing some colors that are differing from the rest over here around Marshallville and St. Louis, just to the south of Fort Valley State. It's pretty broad. It's not very definitive whatsoever, but once again, I'm going to go ahead and continue to issue some of these localized areas where you need to make sure that you're inside right now. You need to make sure that you are getting away from those windows or down on a lower floor, maybe a basement if possible, on a building on Fort Valley's campus. Highway 341 in between Fort Valley and getting down to Clopine, the Perry Parkway area, as you creep in to areas just over in western Houston County. So the Georgia National Fairgrounds, that's going to give me a good idea. We're going to go ahead and try to take at least that Georgia National Fairgrounds Skycam if I can, because you can see that location point pop up as well. Don't think we'll get too good of an indication of anything, but once again, if you are in Fort Valley State, Marshallville, areas of southern Peach County, southeast or around Fort Valley, the Perry area, any other areas of western Houston County, go ahead and make sure that you're in your tornado safe space, because we do have a tornado warning that was issued just a second ago on top of what we do see all the way up here into portions of mainly Monroe County, or mainly Jones County now, and moving out of the Monroe County area. So not seeing anything terribly definitive, but around Round Oak, make sure that you guys are seeking some shelter inside right now and continuing to keep an eye on this couplet right here, western Bibb County. I'm seeing more and more indication that this S shape is continuing to be more and more well defined right around the 475 area, getting around Lake Wildwood. And yes, right there, that just continues to reiterate it. And we got a tornado warning right there now. So we have 3 tornado warnings here in central Georgia currently, and we are going to continue to monitor these here in real time. The first one that has been issued for a while, that's eastern Monroe County, moving over into Jones County around Round Oak and Gray. And again, if I'm naming any of these cities or anywhere that you live in the near vicinity of, make sure that you are going to continue to make sure this utilize that severe weather plan and make sure that you are seeking shelter inside. Make sure that you're not getting near anywhere around those windows. The next one that we did just get issued, and this is going to be for downtown Macon, kind of the central Macon area, Vineville. We're talking North Macon. You guys are kind of in between the tornado warnings, but still, you guys need to make sure that you are seeking shelter anywhere in the Macon area. West Bibb, getting into East Macon. Not necessarily down in southern Bibb County, but this is a pretty definitive rotation signature that we're seeing just to the south of Lake Wildwood. I'm going to get really localized with this because this is probably the more impressive of the signatures we have seen so far. Price Road, Northridge Drive, Stratford Academy. So I know, once again, this is running into the time that maybe you're heading out to catch the school bus this morning. Don't do that this morning if you live anywhere just to the west of I-75. We just got a little bit of a power surge here at the station, so obviously things are picking up in terms of the rain and in terms of the winds. 475 right here, anywhere along that. If you live off Zebulon Road, you live off the Thomaston Road exit, you live off areas that are going to be right by Middle Georgia State University. Again, this couplet maybe not necessarily right by you, but you are going to be in the near vicinity of it. So 475, Weatherby Drive, Ashley Hall Road, and then getting Wimbledon Road right here. Tucker Vall Road, I do believe that is. Hard to see it right there. And then Brandywine Drive, some of the localized roads right here where this couplet is popping up right around the Stratford Academy area. So that should be a big landmark already right there. If you live near Stratford Academy, go ahead and seek shelter in your tornado safe space, as this couplet of some possible rotation does appear to be moving across the I-475 corridor, Georgia Highway 361, and it does appear to be moving over to the east and the northeast, pretty close to Wesleyan College now. So with the latest radar scan, that has made the crossing over I-70 or 475. Covenant Academy, Highway 41, getting into the Forsyth Road area, and eventually what's a little bit farther downstream, that's going to be the Riverside Drive corridor, Amerson River Park, I-75, Georgia Highway, or I believe that's State Route 23 right there. That's going to indicate Northside Drive. So that is the most definitive rotation that we do see. More broad rotation, but also another tornado warning down in Houston, Macon, and Peach County. So southern Peach County moving over to the east into the western vicinity of Houston County, pretty close to the Georgia National Fairgrounds in downtown Perry, and also where I-75 kind of crosses over into that eastern portion of, say, Peach County. So we're talking about areas pretty close like Highway 96. Eventually, it will be getting closer and closer to the Russell Parkway area, maybe even Watson Boulevard. You can see Robins Air Force Base, Centerville, kind of on the outside periphery of this tornado warning, along with downtown area or more the north side of Warner Robins. But more of concern would be areas like Highway 96, Central Georgia Technical College, and getting into the Perry area. So I'm going to try to pop up our sky cams real quick because this is going to give us maybe a bit of an indication about what's actually happening in real time. The Perry Skycam has had its issues throughout this week, so I do apologize for that. But you can see that the winds, when the camera did freeze, were mighty, mighty gusty out of that southerly direction, blowing from left to right. Down here off Highway 96, Cohen Walker Drive, not looking like too messy of an image so far, but you guys don't need to be out and about on the roads as we have that tornado warning that has been highlighted for those areas, just kind of to the south and the southwest of Highway 96. Downtown Macon also doesn't look too bad as of right now. We're seeing some occasional flashes of lightning, but what you're not seeing are these 3 tornado warnings. Once again, for Jones County up here in the northernmost tornado warning down to the Macon area. This northern Macon area and kind of getting into at least areas north of Rutland, Ingleside, Wesleyan College, even us here at the station. Obviously, we're going to have to continue to monitor this. If we do hear things getting pretty loud outside, I want all of you that are back there kind of in the control room or in the newsroom to make sure that you are coming in here into the studio if we are to see this couplet get really close to our vicinity or things are kind of seeming pretty loud outside. So this is going to be a more secure area of the station if you guys are listening to me back there behind the scenes. And then once again, this couplet of rotation, Covenant Academy and Wesleyan College. You guys definitely need to make sure that you're not trying to make it into the classroom at the last second right now. Make sure that you're finding a way to seek shelter and avoid being outside. This thing continues to move at just a very good clip. I apologize if we're not getting super local with some of the roads, but we have 3 separate warnings trying to make sure that everyone is seeking shelter in the proper areas. And even if this isn't a definitive tornado that is confirmed on the ground, you guys need to treat it like it is a tornado on the ground. Hopefully, we don't see any signs of that. So Covenant Academy, Wesleyan College, moving across Highway 41. And then we are going to start to get into kind of the Pierce Avenue area and all these areas really kind of in central Macon. Malvern Hill Road, Rosa Taylor Drive, Bonita Place, Overlook Drive, Osborne Place, West Ridge Circle, Alexander Avenue. Obviously, I could go and name each and every one of these roads if I needed to. However, if you live near any of those, hopefully we've given you enough landmarks. If you do kind of recognize some of those landmarks or roads that I have said, seek shelter in your tornado safe space. Out of the corner of my eye, I continue to watch our downtown Macon Skycam. It's quite a bit of lightning that is continuing to flow through. And I am going to continue to go back down to Houston County, where we also have this other tornado warning that it's kind of all over the place. I'm really not seeing anything that's very definitive of rotation. If anything, I think it's very broad right around here. This is obviously too broad to produce anything in the way of a confirmed tornado, I do believe. However, we are going to continue to keep track of this. I think it's in the northernmost sector of this tornado warned storm box that we do see. Highway 96, just to the east of Fort Valley, around the Buc-ee's area. So if you were going and making plans to fill up the gas tank this morning, think otherwise. Go ahead and make sure that you're budgeting for about 20, maybe 30 extra minutes before making your way out and about on the roads. Highway 96, getting into Highway 41, Russell Parkway, Central Georgia Technical College, anywhere over off Lake Joy Road, that intersection of Highway 96 and Lake Joy Road. Better to be safe than sorry. This possible signature is in the near vicinity of you. Just make sure that you're remaining inside, continuing to stay updated on the coverage, and staying away from those outside elements as much as possible. Farther down to the south, more so in the Perry area, getting into Clopine right there on the Peach County, Houston County state line, Georgia National Fairgrounds. There are a fair share of some gusty winds that are going to be present right there on the county line. Not seeing anything that is necessarily rotating, but once again, the winds can be rotating. The winds could be blowing straight at you. They are still going to do some damage, especially when they are popping up some of these light blue pockets, which are going to indicate some gusty winds, say up to maybe 50 or even possibly 60 miles per hour. Getting a lot of reports of some power outages. Appreciate Megan Western for gathering some of those reports. We're obviously going to have our fair share of power outages with this storm system, whether it is courtesy of a tornado or whether it is going to be courtesy of those straight line winds. Let's pop it back over to the velocity. We continue to watch these couplets up here in Jones County. Looks like it's moved through the Round Oak area just to the north of Gray, if that is some possible rotation. But once again, pretty broad. The tightest couplet is going to be down here around the Ingleside area. So once again, Covenant Academy, Wesleyan College. It looks like this has moved past there, but not to say that you guys are in the all clear. This latest radar scan is a bit promising, so it does appear that maybe the green is pushing back over and trying to not necessarily get pushed back by some of the darker colors. But nonetheless, Amerson River Park getting into areas right off I-75, right over to the west of I-75, where the I-16 interchange split does happen as you go to downtown Macon, which is over a little bit to the southeast, but still continue to seek shelter. There is at least going to be heavy rain and some gusty winds coming in. In fact, I actually just got an image there on the sky cam that I would like to pull up. That was a very bright flash of lightning. See if we can see anything up here. We are looking in the general kind of westerly direction. Things are starting to get a bit nastier outside, starting to see some rainfall down here in Warner Robins. Not necessarily seeing anything up here in downtown Macon. I would love it if we could get another lightning flash, but I don't think Mother Nature is going to coordinate with me. If we were to just be able to see something, maybe if there was something in the way of possible rotation out in the distance, we could maybe get a quick image of it, but still not seeing any glimpses of it whatsoever. So the main thing we're going to do is location, location, location. That is obviously what I want to continue to reiterate all throughout this morning, especially with 3 separate tornado warnings right now that are going to span from Jones County all the way through Bibb County, all the way down into Houston and Peach counties, even over into the western portion of Twiggs County with this tornado warning that has been issued for western Macon and is crossing over more so into the eastern Macon area. This is a line of severe thunderstorms, already gusty winds, heavy rain, and your occasional cloud-to-ground lightning. But within that line, we are continuing to see some kinks in the possible winds, and that is going to indicate winds blowing one way as opposed to the other, and that is causing them to rotate. But very thankfully, we are seeing at least some promising signs of at least a lot of that rotation broadening out. And then we are going to go down to the southernmost tornado warning once again, down here by the Buc-ee's area, just in kind of southeastern Peach County, right there on the county line of Houston County, over on the western side, Highway 41, Highway 96, just around the Buc-ee's exit, right where Russell Parkway is. Obviously, this would continue up into areas like the Centerville area, Watson Boulevard, Galleria Mall, Centerville, getting into the north side of town, Green Street, Robins Air Force Base, a little bit farther downstream, but immediately of concern right here, Highway 96, the Lake Joy Road area, Fagan Mill Road, just going through every landmark that I can think of down here because I do live in the area, I know some of the localized areas. But if I'm naming any location, once again, that is close by you, you need to make sure that you are seeking shelter. And very thankfully, this indication of rotation is not as definitive as what we have seen in areas farther up to the north. Don't want to make sure that I'm leaving some of these southernmost counties out of the picture as well. It does look like we have our fair share of widespread wind down in Dooley and Criss counties. All right, had to get a little bit of a hydration break. Apologize for that. The rain is definitely coming down in downtown now. We actually can see it on the sky cam, so I'm going to pop it back over there. Wish we could get a flash of lightning. I mean, look at that. Wow. Just that left to right motion associated with these rain showers. There's that lightning. Downtown Macon is definitely seeing a whole lot of heavy downpours right now, and you can see how windy it is outside. Look at that left to right motion with some of these rain showers down here by the hospital, by Atrium Health Navicent, and you can't really even see anything off in the distance anymore. So limited visibility is also going to be something that you need to continue to be on the lookout for, and we're also continuing to watch down here in Warner Robins. I'm actually going to move over here just a little bit, see if we can get a better picture of what's going on. Seeing a couple rain droplets, but it doesn't look like necessarily some heavy rain is moving into the picture as of just yet. Let's go back over to your satellite and radar image. Check on the status of a lot of these tornado warnings because some of them were set to expire at around 7 a.m. And I believe this one will be allowed to expire up in Jones County, not indicating that you necessarily need to be in the all clear. I will tell you when you're on the all clear, that is going to be the tornado watch canceling, but the tornado warning does look like it might be allowed to expire at the top of the hour. Here in downtown Macon, I mean, actually the possible rotation that we have been getting an indication of, I don't really see any indication of it anymore, which is a very promising sign. I was seeing a little bit of light green here by the station, and obviously it's getting pretty loud, but I don't think it's necessarily anything of concern that is moving directly overhead, but it is going to get a bit loud outside for a while here at the station, guys. So don't be alarmed if we do hear maybe a flash or we hear some thunder that is really close by, indicating a lightning strike. However, just to the north of us, as you go up Gray Highway into Jones County, there is maybe a bit of an indication of some broader rotation. So southern Jones County, and it does appear that this line of straight line winds is continuing to move through downtown Macon in real time, getting ready to move into the Rutland area. All right, this is pretty definitive now here in Houston County, right here, Highway 41 and Highway 96. This couplet is right here by you. I want you guys to be in your tornado safe space. Lake Joy Road, all of these neighborhoods right off Highway 41. We're talking about the Brantley, the Vinings. We're talking about Aaron Glen. This couplet is right on top of you. Continue to make sure you're shielding yourself from those outside elements. I'm going to pop it back over to the sky cam right here. Not seeing any indication of anything in Warner Robins. Connor, Megan, could one of you go grab my phone real quick? I apologize. I do have some, that's where I live and that's where my family lives. So I just want to do a quick checkup. And just seeing that possible rotation there. Again, it's nothing necessarily confirmed on the ground, but that is where we are getting the strongest indication of some possible rotation down there in Houston County within this tornado warning. Yeah, right where you see this dark color bunching up against the light blue color. Thank you. Just going to shoot a quick text off. So yes, all my folks down there in Houston County, Highway 96 and the intersection of Highway 41, Lake Joy Road, Fagan Mill Road, you guys need to make sure that you're continuing to stay inside, away from those windows. Go down into your basement if you can. My mom is following suit as of right now, just texting me that she's in the basement. I'm very glad. And then other areas, right off Highway 96, maybe you're on Danny Carpenter Road over by Mossy Creek Middle School. You're going to be, say, maybe off Cohen Walker Drive. You are going to be over in areas off Houston Lake Road. That's where this couplet is. It's pretty tight right now, and when it is a lot more localized like that, that's going to indicate winds that are kind of differing from one another on a small scale feature. It's not the most definitive signature of rotation I have ever seen, but it is probably the most definitive of any of the tornado warnings that we continue to have right now. Again, want to make sure that I'm continuing to check up on other warnings right now. Jones County, up here, you guys are in the clear. No tornado warning as of right now, but continue to stay inside. Maybe even a possible couplet right here. That was the same rotation that prompted this tornado warning down in Bibb County. Looks like it's moved a little bit to the north of this box, down to the south of Gray. But downtown Gray, you guys need to make sure that you're staying inside early this morning as well. And then we go into the rest of Bibb County. You guys are still in this tornado warning, and it will go on for about another 13 minutes or so. So continue to make sure that you stay inside. Once again, I'm sorry that it's getting in the way of your regular routine, but you definitely need to be safe as opposed to sorry with this line of severe thunderstorms and tornado warned storms we're continuing to see. So let's go super, super local. I feel like I can name probably about every road over here, but I want you all to make sure that you're staying informed. So we are seeing these light blue colors and these darker colors. They're really close to one another, indicating that the winds are blowing in different directions in a very localized and confined area. So the neighborhoods that it's around directly over right now, again, this isn't necessarily on the ground, a confirmed tornado on the ground. That's not what this is, but this is some very tight rotation. Autumn Woods Drive, Sleepy Hollow, Sleepy Lane, getting into Lake Joy Road right here. This is where you're getting into the Highway 96 and the Lake Joy Road intersection. Eventually over to Houston County High School. So once again, 7 a.m., we're starting to get into the time frame that many of you are heading out to school. Avoid being outdoors as much as possible as you can for the next couple of minutes while this does pass through. 12 Oaks Road, getting into other areas right here by the airfield just across from Houston County High School. Willow Bend, we're getting into Carl Drive right over there by where Rigby's is. Fagan Mill Road, and then getting over into the Houston Lake intersection of Highway 96 and other areas like Max Fitness. Pretty close to our CGTC sky camera. I'm going to go ahead and continue to pan it back over to that. I don't know if we'll get a definitive angle of what's exactly going on, but I mean, this is some very, very gusty wind. This is some very heavy rain right here. This is Cohen Walker Drive. So it doesn't look like a lot of folks are out on the roads right now, very thankfully, and you can see how slow they're taking it. That's why I'm telling you to make sure that you are not going out on the roads right now. You can barely see anything directly in front of you, and look at some of those trees right there by the Health Sciences building. They are moving at quite a good clip. Seeing a lot have a lot of messages that I'm seeing from some people. So, and there goes another power surge. Trying to check in with each and everything that I can, but the main thing I'm going to be focused on is just this location down here in Houston County. This tornado warning. We all good? Sorry, we have a lot of buttons clicking here in the studio. That's the last thing we need would be for the generator to possibly fail. But right here, this couplet, it doesn't look as tight as it once did, but it is right there by our Skycam. Central Georgia Technical College, along Highway 96, really close to Houston County High School right now. In fact, if there is any rotation happening higher up in the sky, that is going to be pretty close to Houston County High School. So if you live right there by Bear Country Road, the neighborhood's across from Houston County High School, starting to get over towards the Houston Lake intersection of Highway 96. That's where you guys need to make sure that you are seeking shelter right now for this tornado warned storm that we are continuing to see less and less of an indication in terms of some possible tight rotation, and that's a very promising sign that we did see with the latest radar scan. But let's continue further on, because obviously the theme with this line has been the rotation weakens, it broadens out, but then it starts to tighten back up because all of central Georgia is basically in a conducive environment for these tornadic warned storms. So let's go a little bit over to the east of Houston Lake Road. Guys next in line for this possible rotation, but at the very least, very gusty winds and some very, very heavy rain getting into Peachtree Boulevard, areas in between Fagan Mill Road and Highway 96 as you get over to Bonanza Drive, Cartwright Drive, getting over down to Mount Zion Road, and then eventually Moody Road over here. So we're also talking about areas that are making their way closer over to the Bonnier section of Houston County. But right now the rotation does appear to be weakening or broadening in nature, and you can see that this warning has been allowed to trim back. So areas that it once was issued for back over into Peach County, that's not the case necessarily anymore. Northern side of Warner Robins, you guys are looking like you're not necessarily seeing the brunt of the impacts, but continue to make sure that you're staying inside. Even areas over by Warner Robins High School, Northside High School, talking about areas like farther along to the northern side of Moody Road, even 247 over by the base. This might be the time that you're making your morning commute out to the base. You are going to want to wait a little bit longer before it is going to be a lot safer to do so. So that tornado warning has been trimmed back. The one up here in Bibb County has been trimmed back as well. And it does appear maybe up into the southern portion of Jones County a little bit more. I still think this right here is the possible rotation that we were monitoring way back over to the west around Lizella, Lake Wildwood, Lake Toposofke. But that did have a very tight couplet as it crossed over the in-between area, 475 and 75. But as it's moved up to the north and the northeast a little bit, it does appear that, yes, it could be indicating some possible rotation, but that would mainly be to the southeast of Gray, not necessarily within this red box. So this tornado warning is still going to be areas that you want to continue to make sure that you're staying inside for. That's going to be around Dry Branch now, that line of straight line winds crossing over from Bibb County over into Twiggs County. And then we are going to continue to keep a close eye on that area just southeast of Gray up here. That could be indicating a little bit of a notch, a little bit of a kink, also a bit of an S shape right here. Starting to see some pockets of some lighter green and maybe some lighter red, but not the most definitive like we have seen. We're really looking out for those light blue colors like you saw down in Houston County. But nonetheless, this line of severe thunderstorms is continuing to be widespread, northern central Georgia, all the way down to the southernmost vicinity of it. Not seeing any indications of any tornado warned storms down here in Dooley, maybe Chris County, Pulaski County, Wilcox County, and now this line moving into eastern Houston County outside of the Georgia National Fairgrounds and other areas. Over in eastern Houston County, that's where you need to be kind of on the lookout now. That's going to be closer to really Bonnier, over just along Highway 96 and over to the east of it, getting into 247, of course. And then eventually this will move into a more remote area and a more rural area after you get past the base, kind of where you get to those low-lying areas near the Ocmulgee River, right on the Twiggs and the Houston County line. So continuing to see a lot of light green, which is still very gusty winds. Do not go outside if you are in this near vicinity, mainly to the west of Bonnier, but the eastern side of Warner Robins, kind of southeast of downtown Warner Robins. And then we are going to continue to watch those gusty winds and that heavy rain continue to push back over to the eastern half of the county. Take a quick hydration break again. Make sure I'm catching all these warnings and updates to the warnings as well. Getting an indication from the National Weather Service, they are saying that rotation in northern Houston County has weakened a lot, but they are still keeping an eye on it. And then we are going to go into... All right, so now catching up on some things with the chat. There was a correlation coefficient drop down in Houston County. See if I can pop it back over there. So they did upgrade that warning to radar confirmed. So I do believe we had a confirmed tornado on the ground right around areas in Houston County around Highway 96. If anyone that I know is watching, tuning in, and you guys have any reports that you are able to text me, please let me know, but only do it when it is safe to do so. We still have these severe thunderstorm warnings and this very heavy band of rain that is moving through. Once that tornado warning expires and once that severe thunderstorm warning expires, feel free to go outside and take a look at maybe anything that you can see outside. I'm really keeping my fingers crossed that there is not much in the way of hopefully downed trees and such. But obviously with some of that tight rotation and the correlation coefficient drop that I was kind of scrambling around to a lot of warnings, didn't get the chance to go take a look at, the National Weather Service have upgraded the warning to radar confirmed. So the radar confirmed tornado doesn't necessarily mean that it was on the ground. We did see a really good indication of it on the radar. Obviously, we're going to rely on actual reports in order to confirm that there's maybe something in the way of a twister possibly on the ground. But just given the tight rotation signature that we did see, it is probably very likely, I would say, that there was at least something in the way of a low level, probably spin up tornado, but even those can do their fair share of damage. Okay, so now what we see, the tornado warning has, or no, never mind, excuse me, sorry, it's blending in with the red right there, and it's so small in nature, it's kind of hard to see. And the colors on here are a little bit different, so I apologize. Seeing a couple flashes of lightning, so obviously not seeing too much lightning associated with this line of thunderstorms. It does appear that the tornado warnings have about 3-ish minutes left on them, at least this one in Bibb County moving over into southern Jones and Twiggs counties, but the one in Houston County is going to continue to go until 7:30. Again, the recent trend that we have seeing is weakening with these possible areas of rotation. Down here in Bon Air, that's where the gustiest winds are going to lie, but this is once was a very tight couplet of some rotation, starting back around its entrance into Houston County, right around Highway 41, right around Highway 96, and then it continued to move kind of east, almost parallel to Highway 96 as it's made its push over into Bon Air. Areas just to the north of Bon Air, pretty close to the Robins Air Force Base. Again, this is not anything in the way of, I believe, a confirmed tornado whatsoever anymore, but there are some very gusty winds that are heading over the Robins Air Force Base, just south of Robins Air Force Base area as of currently. Up here around the northernmost component of this tornado warning, we are seeing this line of straight line winds continuing to push into Twiggs County. No possible indications that I'm seeing of any of those kinks or notches. Maybe keeping an eye on this right here over in western Twiggs County, but this does appear pretty broad right now, not seeing anything in the way of maybe some of those light blue colors that we were talking about earlier. Let's go all the way up here where we were getting an image of that one tornado warning that got us on the air back in Monroe County all the way across Jones County. Not seeing really too tight of a couplet whatsoever. So hopefully these are in the form of some straight line winds now. However, that is still not going to be all clear whatsoever. And speaking of all clear, we will go ahead and issue that for some areas if we got an update to this tornado watch, which it doesn't appear we have. But I do believe that more areas in west central Georgia, you guys are going to be in the all clear as of now. Again, it's just that leading edge. It's just the beginning of this front moving through that you are going to have the severe weather potential. That's where the gustiest winds are going to be, the heaviest rain, and the possible rotation. All of this rain that's coming after, it's going to be a lot lighter and steadier in nature. It's going to make for a messy atmosphere to walk out the door to, but it's not going to be as bad as what we do see with that leading edge. I'm going to take the warnings off, and I'm going to go ahead and draw a rough sketch line about where the all clear is going to be. If you are over to the left of this line right now, so most of Crawford County, most of Monroe County, Lamar, Upson, Taylor, getting down into Macon County, and now starting to see portions of Dooley County clear out as well, you're going to be in the all clear. Honestly, this line could probably shift a little bit over to the east, but just because maybe the rain has subsided, we also continue to see this scattered lightning. If you hear thunder, you still want to make sure that you're staying indoors, but it does look like the severe weather threat is more so going to be now mainly for east central Georgia. So we do continue to see this one lone tornado warning that is down in Houston County. This box continues to get smaller and smaller. Anything that I'm seeing on my phone, I'm getting reports that it does look like it's kind of passed over down there around the Highway 96 area, and that's what we're seeing here on the radar too, just to the east of Bon Air now. We're going to continue to keep an eye out on all these possible areas of rotation because it definitely is or has been a story of a lot of areas of possible rotation popping up as far west as the state line of Georgia and Alabama, and they have been tightening up, and then they have been broadening out and weakening, but they have been tightening up back again. So that couplet of some rotation that just moved through Houston County, I believe that's once what was down in Taylor County over in areas kind of west of Schley County, probably about 100 miles away, or maybe not 100 miles away, but a good deal away, and it just continued to re-strengthen after it did weaken. But where we currently stand, of course, this tornado warning is still going to be until 7:30, so another 15 minutes. We'll see if that warning does last the entire duration of what it is outlined for. Getting a report that Monroe County schools are delayed until 9 a.m. They just posted that on Facebook. Thank you, Naomi Washington, for that information. If we do have any more reports of some school closures, of course, pop in my ear, guys. We'll try to keep people informed as much as we can. What was this notification? New event tornado watch. There's a lot of notifications that are popping up on my phone, so I do apologize. There we go. Tornado watch still looks the same. Not seeing any counties that are trimmed out of that. Let's go to the National Weather Service chat. Not going to reissue at this time, but keep a close eye on it as it goes into Twiggs County, as it has a history of spinning up quickly. So that possible rotation that we have been monitoring down in Houston County, where that tornado warning still does remain in the northern half of the county, really crossing over more so into Twiggs County now, where this heavy band of rain is going to be. And I was popping it over to a lot of our sky cams. We're really not going to be able to get an image of anything. This is some very, very heavy rainfall. Anything that is trying to spin up in the way of a low level or kind of a spin up brief twister, it is going to be rain wrapped. So it's going to be very hard to get an image of anything whatsoever. What was this? About 7,300 people without power across the region, Connor Hendricks was just telling me. So we have a lot of power outages reported so far, and I imagine that's probably due to, number one, maybe possibly rotational winds, maybe in the way of something that was confirmed on the ground down in northern Houston County, but also number two, just the general straight line winds. I mean, these winds in themselves are probably about 50 to 60 miles per hour within this leading edge. So once again, we are going to continue to keep a close eye on this as this heavy band of rain does push farther over to the east. We're seeing a lot of these severe thunderstorm warnings popping up with some bright yellow borders, which means it just got an edit or it is a completely new warning. So we are seeing a lot of these areas at least get areas farther over to the west. So west of I-75, I think we can officially issue the all clear. Areas to the east of I-75 and even to the north, up into areas like Baldwin County and Milledgeville, you guys have yet to really see the brunt of the impact. So areas that are seeing it right now, kind of east of Eatonton, right on the Jones and Baldwin County county line, most of Twiggs County moving into Wilkinson County, down along eastern Houston County, over into areas like Bleckley, and now right in the middle of Hawkinsville, some gusty winds, some heavy rain, and that extending all the way down into Wilcox County, areas like Rochelle and Abbeville. And this line will continue to push into areas like Irwinton, Sandersville, Wrightsville, Dublin, Soperton, Eastman, all over the course of the next 2 hours. Again, your weather impact alert, your severe weather potential is going on until around 9 a.m. So just because we are seeing some promising signs as of right now in terms of the possible rotation, that doesn't mean that this whole event is over by any means, especially given the fact that not only we've seen it in real time on your radar, where this rotation tightens up really quickly and then it broadens out, but then it tightens back up once again, but also the National Weather Service has hinted at that trend, and we are going to continue to keep a close eye on all of those areas. Now, something that we are going to see as we move over to the east of Jeffersonville, we're going to kind of monitor the red colors here on the radar. That's just because we are going to be on a different side of the radar. Again, not towards the radar where these winds have been moving, but the winds are going to be moving away from the radar. So right over here to the west of Milledgeville, there might be a pocket of some pretty gusty winds that we are seeing in the western part of the county, not indicating rotation, but this is going to be some very gusty winds getting ready to move to the east into downtown Milledgeville. Other areas like what we are seeing or what other areas have seen so far. But Milledgeville, Georgia College students, you guys are going to want to remain indoors for roughly about the next 30 to maybe even 45 minutes, at least for the duration of this severe thunderstorm warning. Going down the line, not seeing any indications of those possible couplets or those tight areas indicating rotation, which is a good sign. And then down here in our southernmost counties, we're seeing some widespread straight line winds that are probably having some pretty drastic impacts. I mean, look at all this light blue down in the southern half of Pulaski County, some patchy areas of it as you go down into Wilcox County. Those aren't rotational winds, but they're blowing straight at you, probably in the vicinity of around 50 to 60 miles per hour. I would go ahead and assume that we have some isolated pockets of 60-mile-per-hour winds, given that these are going to be severe thunderstorm warnings, and the winds have been the driver of them, meaning that they have to be in excess of 58 or greater miles per hour. So that's going to be the driver, one of the drivers at least, of severe thunderstorm warnings. Getting another report that Jones County posted, if you choose not to send your children, it will be excused early this morning. So that's a good indication to see. Obviously, we were talking about how this was going to get right in the middle of your early morning plans and getting into your regular routine out to the school bus stop. I hope many of you did heed the warnings and made sure that you just stayed inside. Again, the rest of today is going to be spectacular. It's going to be a little bit cooler, but we'll have plenty of sunshine, and we are going to have some breezy conditions. However, you are going to want to make sure that maybe you're taking your kids into school a little bit later and maybe going into work just a little bit later. Hopefully that this is a good enough excuse weather-wise. I'm here issuing the excuse for maybe arriving to work and school a little bit later. Hopefully that your employer does take that excuse. But that's what we have as reports for school districts right now. If you want to find all the information that we have currently, 13wmaz.com will be continuing to keep you updated. But right now we have also seen the tornado warning expire in northern Houston County, which I did kind of anticipate it wasn't going to make its way all the way to 7:30. So 7:21 on the clock right now. What we currently have are 3 or 4, I believe it's 4 severe thunderstorm warnings spanning from northern central Georgia all the way down to the south. So let's go back to the current live radar picture. So Putnam County and Hancock County all the way down to Wilcox County, Dodge County, and Crisp County. So from north to south here in central Georgia. Very thankfully, right now we're not seeing anything in the way of tornado warnings, but just because they are gone for the moment doesn't mean that they can't pop back up. We've already seen that history over the course of the last couple of hours. I'm going to continue to check in on this National Weather Service chat. Circulation tightening up in Putnam County. We'll continue to watch closely. Circulation also tightening in Baldwin County. All right, so let's turn our focus back up to the north. Not really seeing any indications of it, but this was also a couple of minutes ago. It does look like that rotation, whatever was trying to tighten up, is appearing to be broadening out a little bit more. But I would say right here to the west of Milledgeville, go ahead and make sure that you're inside in Milledgeville just to be better safe than sorry. Nothing in the way of a tornado warning, but a severe thunderstorm with some very gusty winds, some very heavy rain, and obviously the occasional lightning, which is going to send you at least maybe a bit of an early wake-up call if you have a later class today, say at GCSU. All right, I think I'm caught up on a lot of these messages that we have been seeing. Again, do not get outside and try to send us pictures or reports of anything unless it is safe to do so. So while we are continuing to monitor this line of these severe thunderstorms, I'm going to go ahead and take away the warnings, and I'm going to go ahead and draw a line about where that all clear zone is going to be. And that is going to be on the back side of this edge of heaviest rain. So I'm really trying to see where those colors transition into more of a green color. So if you're in the western half, almost the majority of Houston County now, it does appear that we are finally in the all clear after a very eventful last hour or so. Same thing for up here in Bibb County, western Jones County, western Jasper, all the way over to Macon, Peach, Crawford, most of Dooley County, and most of Crisp County. It does appear that we might have a lightning strike just on the back side of this leading edge. But where this red color is where I want you to concentrate on. Say if you live in east central Georgia, where we're now turning our focus to for the remainder of the morning until we get to around 8 to 9 a.m. And then we go back over to the east, eventually out of central Georgia, which I will show you. We won't worry about it. Future View is just going to continue to tell you that. I'm not going to worry about what the model says at this current moment. We're just going to continue to worry about location, location, location at this current moment. Let's go back over to this mode. And let's pop back up the warnings. Let's see how long these warnings, these individual boxes do have on the duration. This first warning, this northernmost sector, so encompassing basically the northern half of central Georgia, areas like Sparta, Milledgeville, down to Gordon, Irwinton, Jeffersonville, and you will see areas like Gray and Macon right on the edge of this. If that red line, this patch of red color is past you, you're already in the all clear. Just continue to make sure that you're driving with some caution. We have reports of down power lines, we have reports of down trees, and we also are continuing to hear rumbles of thunder associated with some scattered strikes of lightning. But that heavy rain is really moving in to the Baldwin County area now, Wilkinson County, across the majority of Twiggs County, right by our radar. And this severe thunderstorm warning will push on into Hancock County around Sparta, western Washington County, the eastern half of Baldwin County, up near Lake Sinclair. We also have another box that is covering this severe thunderstorm warning. Eastern half, there we go, another tornado warning. So that was possible rotation that we were monitoring there in the Milledgeville area, right around Milledgeville, and it's really hard to see because the location actually gets a little bit in the way. But right here is where we are looking at that possible rotation, directly west of Milledgeville. Georgia College students, people in downtown Milledgeville, right near the Blandy area, and then we get over to Highway 22, 441, Underwood, as you make your way out of eastern Baldwin County. This is where this possible rotation right now is popping up. And this is a tornado warned storm now. So this tornado warning going until around 8 a.m. for Baldwin, Hancock, and Washington counties. Right now, where the possible rotation is, where the possible twister could be, it's going to be to the west of Milledgeville. If you live in Hancock County, you live in Washington County, this tornado is still a good ways away from you if it is on the ground, but not seeing any indications of anything that could be confirmed on the ground right now. This isn't by far the most impressive signature that we really have seen so far this morning. But Milledgeville, Georgia College students, you guys need to make sure that you are inside the safety of a classroom, of a building on campus, of your house in general, away from windows. Once again, if you have a basement, go down into your basement. Lower levels are always going to be better in a tornado warned storm, but just getting yourself away from those windows. Obviously, when you have straight line winds, you have rotational winds. It's going to pick up any of those loose items outside, and that's going to act as flying debris. And the window is not the best shield from that. Surround yourself with something in the way of drywall or more well-built structure in the form of concrete and brick if you absolutely can. So it's right over here around Milledgeville, and I'm just going to go ahead and say all of Milledgeville right there. We can get really, really localized if we want, but you guys need to make sure that you're in your tornado safe space. In Georgia College, Milledgeville, just to the east of Blandy. Even as you make your way up to the north, as you're making your way up to Lake Sinclair, I would go ahead and make sure that you're in your tornado safe space as well, as this tornado warning will extend over to the east into portions of southern Hancock County and eventually get over into the western edge of Washington County. So other areas on the back half of this warning, that includes Linton, that includes Deep Step in southern Hancock and over in western Washington County, Underwood, Georgia Highway 24, Georgia Highway 243. If any of that sounds familiar, you need to make sure that you are within the safety of a structure in Milledgeville, mainly in the Baldwin County area. Also monitoring this down here over in Pulaski County, not necessarily indicating some rotation. However, it is a very, very widespread pocket of some pretty strong wind gusts that are continuing to move to the east out of Hawkinsville down to the south of Cochran over into the northern half of Dodge County. Let's see. Getting some reports from Houston County EMA. Strong thunderstorm occurrence in Bon Air, winds estimated at 30 to 40 mile per hour peak gust. Brief blinding rains, scud clouds observed, but no rotation south of the intersection. Okay, so that's a promising sign, hopefully, that we can get out of Houston County, but obviously we need to continue to exercise our due diligence and get all the reports in that we can, because we were seeing radar indicated that something was confirmed on the ground. So let's go back to your tornado warning once again. Not seeing any other notifications about this possible rotation, but it's going to be where you're starting to see maybe that yellow pixel pop up. So directly north of Milledgeville. Again, I don't think this is definitive of anything on the ground, but go ahead and treat it like it is on the ground. North of Milledgeville, moving off to the east along some localized roads like Georgia Highway 22, moving to the east out of downtown Milledgeville, State Route 24, and eventually you are going to make your way over close to, I think this is the county line right here. Right here, this is the county line of southern Hancock County, Beulah getting over into Linton in southern Hancock County. So that's the direction that this is moving in, and the possible rotation that we're continuing to see is really right around downtown Milledgeville. So continue to make sure that you're inside right now. I can't issue that enough, and I will not stop saying it over the course of this morning because that is going to be the best piece of advice that I can issue for you. Yes, it's around 8 a.m. Yes, I know you have to get out to work. You have to get out to school and things. I promise you, you can afford to be a little bit late today, and it is going to be okay. I promise it is going to be a decision that you will be very happy with, especially given some of those areas and maybe some people that got stuck in the heavy rain and the very gusty winds so far this morning. So the base velocity is still showing that possible rotation, and it's still not very definitive to me, but still I see what they're picking up on right here, where you start to see kind of this gray nudge up into some of these brighter red colors right here. Again, I did say we were going to start to watch some of these red colors more so now than the green, because we are going over on the eastern side of the radar down in Jeffersonville, but this is going to obviously kind of move along the Highway 22 area, going to continue its push over to the eastern part of Baldwin County. So eastern Baldwin County, you guys need to make sure that you're inside as well. Let's go ahead and give some localized roads where we do see Fairview Road Northeast. Is this Lake Laurel Road Northeast? Yes, Lake Laurel Road Northeast, getting out of Old Country Club Road Northeast, Mears Circle Southeast, Cicada Drive Southeast, Brookins Circle Northeast. If those sound familiar to you, make sure that you are continuing to remain inside early this morning, as we do have a sign of at least some possible rotation tightening up there in Baldwin County, continuing to make sure that we're keeping an eye on this line of straight line winds where we could possibly see some rotation tightening up around the Lake Sinclair area. Not necessarily sure if it's too definitive, but maybe something trying to spin a little bit higher up into the sky. And then we'll go down the line where we continue to not really see anything down on the southerly component of this line. Okay, let's go to Twiggs County, where they did just tell us that there was a correction. Okay, there we go. Tornado warning box that did just pop up. This was a correction that the National Weather Service has issued. Not sure exactly for which warning. It's really hard to see because we are so close to the Jeffersonville radar, but it is directly down to the south of the radar where this tornado warning is. So for Twiggs County, until 7:45 a.m., and a tornado has been observed. So there's an observed tag with this tornado warning. Just reading a couple of the specifics. Tornado is on the ground. Take cover now if you do live kind of right here in the smack dab middle of Twiggs County right here. So just to the south of the Jeffersonville radar, the district path area getting close to Danville, right north of I-16. That's where we're looking at right here within this red box. I'm just going to continue to pop it back over to the velocity because it's a little bit easier to see on this parameter. Not seeing anything that is terribly indicative of some really, really tight rotation, but I can once again kind of see what they're hinting at, and it's a lot of this wiggle and wobble that you're seeing within this line of straight line winds that is continuing to push over to the east of District Path, now starting to go over to Danville and Georgia Highway 80. Again, this does have an observed tag with it, so it has been observed that this tornado is on the ground. It is really close to our radar in Twiggs County. If you live in eastern Twiggs County, and I would go ahead and say this south and southwesterly portion of Wilkinson County, you need to be in your tornado safe space now as well. So after we had a brief lull in activity, we now have 2 tornado warnings once again. So one moving out of the Milledgeville area. Right here is where I'm seeing that possible rotation, still pretty broad and pretty large scale, but that is going to continue to move out of eastern Baldwin County down into the southern component of Hancock County. So that's going to be south of Sparta, but pretty close to the Linton area. You guys are going to be next in line for this first tornado warned storm that is up to the north. Now let's go down into Twiggs County, where just really close to this radar, it is very hard to see unless you really get up close and personal with it. This red box where you're following my finger, Danville, right on the edge of this. If you are right on the edge, go ahead and treat it as if you are in that warning box. going all the way back over to District Path, going all the way over to the west of the radar and around downtown Jeffersonville itself. I do believe the possible rotation is down here to the south of it, maybe 2 possible kinks that we are seeing right there, but nothing that does look as impressive as some of the signatures we have seen recently. Again, that doesn't mean anything. Just because of what it does seem like to me, what it does seem like to your general eye, we are getting an observed tag with this tornado warning. So we are going to continue to treat this as a tornado on the ground until this warning is allowed to expire. Down in eastern Twiggs County, southeastern Twiggs County, along Georgia Highway 358, getting into the Danville area. And I think we're just having maybe a little bit of trouble seeing the impressive nature of the signature because we are so close to the radar. The radar is used to going out and up as opposed to directly close to it. That's why you see this sector of nothing right there by the radar, because it's not picking up on things directly ahead of it. It has to go out in the distance a little bit to pick up what is up in the sky. So here in the eastern half of Twiggs County, Highway 96, this is just to the south of that. Highway 80, it looks like this possible couplet rotation has possibly crossed over and moved over into Wilkinson County. So once again, if you live in Twiggs, and I'm going to go ahead and extend this warning myself into southern Wilkinson County, just go ahead and make sure that you are inside, you are indoors, and you are going to stay there away from things like windows and away from the outdoor elements as much as possible until this warning is allowed to expire, which it is set to do in another 10 minutes at 7:35, but I wouldn't doubt to see that warning maybe extended a little bit. Still not seeing really anything in the way of some tight rotation indication here over to the east of Milledgeville. It does look like we are still dealing with some gusty winds and some heavy rain in the Milledgeville area, so something you don't want to be outside for, but the tornado couplet right here where we did just see this box trimmed down and extended farther over to the east. Well, I think this was already the eastern part of the box, but nonetheless, right over here in the eastern corner of Baldwin County, getting ready to cross the county line down into the southern portion of Hancock County over towards the Linton area. Let's go a little bit more localized once again, trying to give everyone a proper indication of what's going on, especially these localized areas. Georgia Highway 22, Underwood, right there on the county line of Baldwin and getting into Hancock County. Beulah, right there to the northwest of Linton. And, well, you can't see Linton. I'll drag it back over. My computer's in the way. Linton, right here, going to be immediately over to the east. And then finally, this box does end as you make your way farther over to, not exactly sure what road this is, or that might be the county line in between Washington and Hancock counties early this morning. Let's go back down to Twiggs County, where this box is just right there by the radar within a lot of red, so it's super, super hard to see. Let's see if this velocity parameter can give me maybe a better image of what's exactly going on. Okay, so right here, this is where the couplet is. We're getting a little bit of a better image of it now. Again, observed tornado on the ground, moving over into southern Wilkinson County, just south of Highway 96. Getting some more reports in, but we'll worry about those in a little bit. And then we can see that this couplet will continue its eastern push, maybe a little bit up to the northeast, but I'm going to go ahead and drag this. Let's see how fast it's moving. It is going to be moving to the east at 25 miles per hour. Right there. Can we get any indication of, now this is a very rural area, so that's a promising sign, but obviously this doesn't necessarily put everyone in the all clear. Really around the Highway 112 area down in southern Wilkinson County, that is going to be where you need to be in your tornado safe space, of course. It does appear that this, once again, a fairly rural area, but the couplet that we are monitoring for that possible rotation, it is going to be to the east of Georgia, or excuse me, State Highway 80, or not State Highway, Highway 80 nonetheless. You see where the road is over there with the 80, and you can start to see where this pocket of some yellow is, and then we're going to start to see a lot of this gray color, but that's pushing in, once again, into this widespread swath of some straight line winds, indicating some winds that are battling back in the other direction. The red color indicates going away from your radar, which you see right over there on the left side of your screen. So these winds moving away from the radar, these winds are moving towards the radar, especially right here on the line, creating a bit of that kink in nature where we continue to monitor for that possible rotation. Farther down to the south, we are continuing to see a little bit of wiggle and wobble, a bit of a snake shape Now moving into Dodge County. So once again, we'll keep an update on what's going on in the possible rotation, maybe down closer to Eastman. Not seeing anything in the way of a tornado warned storm. That continues to be really down here just by the radar. And it looks like we have seen an extension of this tornado warning. So now there's a whole lot of boxes overlapping one another. What I'm going to do is kind of break apart what we are seeing right now. So the couplet is right here, where you spot this yellow dot right here where my finger is, and then we are going to watch that indentation of the winds kind of blowing in the other direction. So once again, observed tag with this tornado. This has been observed to be on the ground. That goes down into the southern part of Wilkinson County, so kind of to the southwest of Nicholsville. However, Nicholsville right smack dab in the middle of this extension warning. So southern Wilkinson County, Nicholsville, and of course the northern portion of now Lawrence County. So downtown Dublin, not included in this tornado warning, but we are going to have to keep a close eye on any of these possible indentions, like we also see in Danville, like we also see down in northern Dodge County, and that's going to continue to push over to the east into northern Lawrence County. Nicholsville is the one area that we are seeing, at least with a label on this broad view of things, but let's go a little bit more localized like we have been doing just about each and every storm so far. There we go. Surrey Road, Turkey Creek Road, I believe that is, getting into Old Macon Road, and then McHugh Road. So all of these roads over here in the eastern part of Twiggs County, probably a lot of back roads, probably very rural environment, north or southern Wilkinson County. That's where these roads are going to be located. That's where we are seeing at least the tornado warning extended back over to the east. And with the latest radar scan, it does look a bit more promising. Taking off these warning boxes, they're right in the middle of where I'm trying to point out. So we can see the black color and all the reds. There is a little bit of an indentation here, but we are seeing that couplet of some yellow back off just a little bit. Yeah, Lawrence, Twiggs, and Wilkinson is going to be what this new tornado warning is for. Let's go ahead and pop it back over to this and show you that it is just a messy picture in central Georgia this morning, to say the least. I haven't talked about this warning in a little bit. Let's go back up to here. Again, trying to make sure that I'm covering the bases with all of these warnings. There's more than one going on, so it's a bit of a broader view in terms of trying to get the location. This one hasn't been as much of a concern. I'm not seeing too much in the way of definitive, necessarily, rotation popping up on your velocity parameter, but it is a tornado warning that's extending over into Hancock and Washington counties now. In Milledgeville, I think you guys are in the all clear in terms of no more tornado risk as of right now, but we are going to continue to watch this warning until it is set to expire in another 18 minutes or so at the top of the 8 a.m. hour. And then let's go over to Jeffersonville, Nicholsville, Danville within the bottom part of one of these boxes, and the northern portion of Lawrence County. So just north of downtown Dublin, Highway 441 north as it goes out of downtown Dublin, just to the north of Dudley, Georgia Highway 80. This is to the north of you, but I would go ahead and proceed with caution. Hopefully, we're pretty close to the 8 a.m. hour. Things like school is already beginning to start. If there is going to be a tornado warning that does extend into areas of downtown Dublin, all of those school districts a little bit farther to the south, we will continue to keep you updated. But also not to take away from a lot of this wiggle and wobble that we see, a bit of a snake shape with some of your winds, indicating that there are some indentions where the winds are trying to fight back a little bit towards the radar as opposed to away from the radar that we see down in Dodge County. This area specifically, really broad stuff right now. We are seeing some yellow and some light green kind of couple up together in northern Dodge County. Not necessarily too definitive, so that is going to be a good sign, but continue to know that there is heavy rain and there's gusty winds in anywhere that we are continuing to monitor, especially along this line, draping from northern Dodge County all the way down to the south. But it looks like the heaviest impacts have kind of rolled through downtown Eastman, which brings me to my next point, which will be popping back up the sky cams once again, as we are going to take a look over to the west in downtown Dublin. This is a bit of a weird image. I don't know if something's wrong with the picture necessarily, but I mean, it looks a little bit kind of tinted with a bit of a yellow shade, if you will, on this downtown sky cam. Not seeing anything definitive right now out and about, but once again, kind of a calm before the storm. Everyone else is still seeing plenty of wet roads, not seeing anything in the way of damage, of course, on these sky cams, but we're continuing to look at all of what we have right now. So expired severe thunderstorm warning. Let's go back to satellite and radar. Let's go back to these tornado warnings, where we were once again seeing some promising signs. We did see the extension of the tornado warning from Twiggs County, where it did form just right here around the Jeffersonville radar, extended over into northern Lawrence and southern Wilkinson counties, but it is kind of clipped off over here in Johnson County. Wouldn't imagine that that area might get included necessarily, but let's go ahead and take it back to the rotation signatures, where right here, that kink right there is not as definitive as it once was, but what we are seeing now is down to the south, maybe a little bit of an indentation sign right here around Montrose, around Goldsboro. And this, if it is to continue to get its act together, it's moving in a directly east direction. So Dudley, Kewanee, and then we start to get over to Dublin and Harlow. Obviously, all those roads that filter into downtown Dublin. This is something we are going to want to keep a close eye on right here. But it is a severe thunderstorm nonetheless, and you need to go ahead and make sure that you are inside, especially in the downtown Dublin area. I know it seems fine outside right now, but this is what's coming. Some very heavy rain, only occasional strikes of lightning. I guess it doesn't really look too impressive in terms of the actual radar imagery, but I promise you this widespread swath of some yellow, that's going to be the equivalent of those light blue colors we were seeing within the green. So widespread, gusty straight line winds that we do have some isolated pockets, and I imagine it's within those yellow colors of 58+ mile-per-hour gusts, because that's what's going to trigger your severe thunderstorm warnings in light of us not having a hail risk, which is going to be the other trigger for a severe thunderstorm warning. So good news, promising news. That tornado warning up around the Milledgeville area that extended into Hancock and Washington counties, that has been allowed to expire. Not to say that you were in the all clear, though. We still see this severe thunderstorm warning going all the way up to Sparta, some gusty straight line winds that are continuing to move into the eastern half of Hancock County and beginning their push into western Washington County. Right here, and a little bit of a nozzle right here in Baldwin County, that's going to continue to push over into Deep Step, Sandersville, Worthen eventually, but it is no longer a tornado warned storm. So hopefully we don't see any signs of the re-strengthening in that couplet of possible rotation. Not seeing anything farther on the southern component of this line. It's just a very thin band of some heavy rain moving in to Milan, right there on the Dodge and the Telfair County lines, and getting it into the Jacksonville eventually. Eventually, it will make its way over to McRae in just a little bit longer. And then we are going to go back up here where we actually see the only lightning strikes near this tornado-warned storm. Now in southern Wilkinson, making its way into northern Lawrence County, which is still back here just a little bit. No break. We still have an active tornado warning, so we keep going. Northern Lawrence County, right there around Nicholsville, we can continue to watch these indentions in that line of some straight line winds. So we are going to watch out for this as long as it is issued for, which is 8:15, but still along with that, I want to continue to emphasize the fact that these winds don't need to be rotating in order to cause some damage. I've seen a lot of reports already in the National Weather Service chat, some people shooting me messages about some confirmed damage that we have seen all across central Georgia. So obviously this storm system is packing quite a punch so far this morning, and you need to make sure that you're continuing to stay inside if you live in areas back over to the east. So if we see some more impressive readings and some more good news in terms of this rotation, at least trying to not necessarily be as organized anymore, we'll pop it back over and I'll do a little bit of more all clear for the rest of central Georgia. But you can go ahead and kind of get an image of where the winds are going to be a little bit gustier behind that immediate line moving through, but back over to the west where those colors do start to fade out a little bit, that's where you are going to continue to be in the all clear this morning. So around Dudley, that's where we also see maybe a little bit of an indentation with some of these straight line winds. And let's go back over to the tornado warning that was observed once again in southern Wilkinson, getting down into northern Lawrence. Again, the brief spin-up nature of these tornadoes that we did have the highlighted risk for, that is allowing for maybe only about 3 or 4 radar scans where the rotation looks very definitive and very tight couplet per se. So right now we are seeing a broadening out of that rotation and starting to see more so just the straight line winds take back over. There are plenty of patches of some yellow farther down on the southern component of this line, and obviously some very gusty winds. I imagine that are rolling through northern Dodge County all the way down to Eastman, and we will get a better image of what those winds are actually doing as they make their way to downtown Dublin. But now we have another tornado warning, and this one is going to encompass downtown Dublin. So Dudley, Dexter, Dublin, all the way over to Bruton, you guys need to make sure that you are making your way into your tornado safe space now. That's if you're in school already. If you are at work, go into an interior-most room. Once again, surround yourself with as many barriers as you can between yourself and those outside elements. If you have a lower level floor, if you have something below ground, go into that. If you don't necessarily have that within your homes, go into an interior-most room where you don't have necessarily windows, whether that's a closet, whether that's a bathroom. If you do go into a bathroom, make sure that you get into that bathtub. All of those different things that I want to continue to emphasize in order to stay safe. Again, this isn't necessarily anything in the way of a confirmed tornado so far, but we are continuing to see maybe a possible indention right there on some of the winds. It's not, once again, looking too impressive like some of our signatures have so far, but for a broad scale view, we'll go a bit more localized in just a second. Dudley, Dublin, Dexter. Obviously, the trio of D-towns over here in Lawrence County, right along I-16. This is really moving kind of across I-16 right now. Just to the southeast of Dudley is where I do believe I'm kind of getting the best indication of rotation right here, where this black color is kind of starting to engulf some of that orange and some of that red. Kewanee, Shoemake, Dudley. Those are going to be the areas in the most immediate impacts from this, whether it's straight line winds, whether it's rotational winds. It is going to still do its fair share of damage, like it has already done across most of central Georgia so far. Going over to the east, Moores, right outside of downtown Dublin. Highway 80 from Dudley all the way over to Dublin. Make sure that you guys are once again in your tornado safe space, those interior-most rooms, and make sure that you are staying inside for the full duration until I give you the all clear that we are going to have this tornado warning expire. So right now, 8:15 is when this warning is set to expire. The one just to the north in northern Lawrence County is also going to expire around 8:15. And we will continue to stay on air until all tornado warnings are gone. And we'll continue to probably do the same with all the severe thunderstorm warnings, because it's an active weather picture, whether you've seen these tornado warning storms this morning or whether you have just dealt with some severe thunderstorm warnings. I think we got some reports of some damage in Macon County already. And Macon County, I don't think, had a tornado warning. I obviously have been covering a lot, so I'll have to circle back and see if we did get one of those in there. But nonetheless, Dublin, downtown Dublin, you need to make sure that you're heading into your tornado safe space. Even if the rotation signature isn't the most impressive, that goes for Dudley, that goes for Dexter, that goes for all areas in between along I-16 in the northern portion of Lawrence County. I'm not necessarily talking about maybe Cadwell, maybe Rents a little bit farther down to the south, but you guys should obviously proceed with caution, because we're also seeing another kind of S-like shape down here in southern Lawrence County, at least some gusty straight line winds, but also continuing to try to pick apart where these winds are going to start to rotate one another. And we see a whole lot of very gusty winds so far this morning. Down to the south of Dudley, I think, is the most. Gotcha. And we are going to watch kind of this indention right here along the straight line wind. So downtown Dublin, Dudley, Kewanee, Harlow, Dexter, and even areas farther over to the east within this box, talking about Condor, talking about Bruton, talking about Catlin, East Dublin. You guys need to make sure that you are staying indoors. We just got a trimming back of this tornado warned storm that started over in Jeffersonville. I imagine that this warning will expire maybe even a bit before 8:15 when it is set to, but nonetheless, it's right around the Nicholsville area in southern Wilkinson, right on the Lawrence County line, and it will continue to move over to the east, making its way towards Johnson County, but it remains to be seen how much that possible rotation will hold together. So I'm going to toss it back over to the desk here in just a second, doing one last check over, making sure that I'm covering all those red boxes. All right, we're going to send it back over to Megan and Connor real quick. I think we have some damaged reports to report on.
Alrighty, thank you so much, Alex. Yes, we'll get back to you in just a few minutes, but we're going to go ahead and cut in and go ahead and show you some of the power outages that we are seeing currently in our area. Right now, more than 10,000 people in the central Georgia area are without power. About 5,700 of those are Georgia Power customers that are left in the dark right now. Nearly 1,100 Flint Energy customers don't have power, and 2,000 Chris County Power Commission customers are without power. This is what we're learning this morning. Of course, we'll continue to update you as those crews quickly work to get you back with your power. Now, we've also been checking in with all of our local school systems this morning as the staff and the students are headed in. Many of them were already headed in, so we'll go ahead and update you with that. Right now, we are told that Baldwin County students will not be marked as tardy today. Those students were sheltering in place, the ones that were already at the school location. They were going to shelter in place until that warning passed through. Jones County schools are excusing any absences today because of the weather, and they say that buses will resume once those conditions are safe.
And Houston County schools are telling parents that the bus transportation is currently paused and students and staff should stay home until this warning is over. Bibb County students are on a delayed start this morning. Those high schools are going to start at 8:30, elementary schools 9:20, middle 10:05. Again, elementary at 9:20, middle schools 10:05, high schools 8:30.
Yes, now over in Monroe County, schools will start late at 9 a.m. to wait the storm out. The same is going to go for Windsor Academy and CFCA. We also recently got in a couple other updates. We're told that folks out in Macon County, you guys will be on a delayed start at 9:30 this morning. Those bus routes should start at about 8:30. Tatnall Square Academy won't start their day until 10 in the morning. I think we also got an update out of Dublin City.
Dublin, yes, because that most recent tornado warning was in Lawrence County. Jason Holcomb with the district says that most of those students were actually already on campus when that warning was issued because the middle and high school begin their classes at 7:30, then elementary begins around 8. He says they're closely monitoring this situation and their staff are trained for this severe weather and these protocols for that storm out there. Now for those students who are currently in the buildings, they say that they also encourage any of their students, staff, and parents to stay off the road and remain in place until the storm passes.
Yeah, right now we're also hearing about some storm damage that you guys are seeing out on the roads. Officials are asking people to stay away from Highway 42 south in the area of the roundabout. There is a tree and power lines down in that area.
Now the same goes for Sharp Street over in Monroe. There's a tree down at Montpelier Road in the area of Pecan Circle. We're also hearing about a semi-truck turned over near the Buc-ee's out there in Peach County on 75 South. There are also trees blocking State Highway 90 in Dooley County. Of course, we always tell you this. Don't go out if you don't have to this morning. Please stay home if possible, especially when the stormy weathers are moving through the area.
Yeah, this morning we're also hearing from the Houston County Fire Chief, Chris Stoner. We asked him what damages he and his crews are seeing right now. He said they're seeing some branches on the ground, but no real damage, thankfully. There were reports on social media of a possible tornado touching down near Highway 96 and Highway 41. You might have heard Alex Price speaking on that earlier. Officials say they did see a radar signature in that area, so possible tornado briefly touching down. Nothing confirmed. Crews are continuing to check that area. If you needed to stop by any of the Warner Robins non-essential government offices, the city tells us they will be opening at 9 this morning. Alrighty, I think we're going to go ahead and check back in with Alex Pry.
Yes, and just kind of going off what you guys were just saying right there, some of the reports that we've already gathered. I did just get a minute to look at my phone and look at some of the reports from friends in Warner Robins and even my mom at home. And just from what I did see, it looks like a tornado kind of went directly through my backyard down Highway 96 and the intersection of 41. So definitely going to continue to cover these with some real seriousness throughout this morning as we've had reports from the public with the tags on the warnings and even obviously just radar indicated rotation with the winds that we have seen some confirmed tornadoes on the ground, whether they're a brief spin up or not, because they can have their fair share of damage. My backyard is honestly a little bit unrecognizable right now. It's a heavily wooded area. So I appreciate all of you for staying up to date this morning, but I want to continue to make sure that you guys within these 2 tornado warnings right now in southern Wilkinson County, getting into northern Lawrence County, and especially the downtown Dublin corridor, you guys are taking this with some seriousness. So continue to make sure that you are going into your tornado safe space. A lot of you are still in school. We're providing you with updates by the minute as we continue to get them. So if you are in school, that's probably a better case scenario because schools are very well built. You have those cinder blocks that are surrounding you from the outside elements. If you're not within a steady structure like that, or maybe you're within your home, once again, get away from those windows. Make sure that you are hunkering down in an interior-most room and make sure that you are continuing to make sure that you're shielding yourself with as many barriers as you can from the outside elements. So right now, what we're currently monitoring is this area of rotation just to the southwest of Dublin. So right now, right along I-16, let's get a little bit more localized. The warning to the north is not looking as impressive in terms of a rotational signature anymore, and that's probably because it's been a bit more long-lived in nature. It started closer to the radar over in Twiggs County near Jeffersonville, and that has kind of weakened and broadened out in nature. So the Harlow area right here along Highway 257 in Lawrence County, in between Harlow and Vincent. That's where we're seeing this possible rotation. Again, we are seeing the winds that blow, towards the radar. So we are seeing them go this way, and we are seeing the winds in the other direction come back around. So what they're doing is trying to wrap around and they're trying to circulate one another. Harlow over to Highway 319, and then this is mainly areas to the south of downtown Dublin, but right along I-16. So some of those exits right off I-16 that do read kind of downtown Dublin and such. We're getting really close to Southern Pines Regional Park, a lot of those restaurants right off the interstate, the Pilot Station, and eventually other areas that are kind of on the northern side of I-16 right here. So Highway 441 getting into 319, and then we go over here. Let's go really localized. Academy Avenue, EXT, I'm not exactly sure what that stands for, but nonetheless, Waldrop Industrial Boulevard, Honeysuckle Road. Let's get down over here where we can see West Lawrence School Road. So this rotation is pretty close to the West Lawrence area. Getting over here into County Farm Road, Fire Tower Road, Griffin Lane, Fire Tower Road once again, Honeysuckle Road, Forte Lane, and getting up a little bit farther over to the east. Let's go Cochran Farm Road, Cochran Drive, Ella Street, and then over to Clinton Branch Road. So all of these areas directly off I-16, mainly on the northern side. That's where this couplet of possible rotation does appear to be. It looks a little bit south of downtown Dublin, and going to keep my fingers crossed that it maintains that easterly direction. But if you are in downtown Dublin, you need to go ahead and seek shelter in the downtown Dublin corridor as of right now. Like I just mentioned, this is a very serious situation where we have reports of lots of damage all across central Georgia so far. So make sure that you are continuing to take this with full seriousness. As we go up to the northernmost tornado warning, we also are seeing that couplet tighten up once again. This has been the couplet that has really been misbehaving, I do believe, for quite a while. It's moving right here in the corner of Johnson, Wilkinson counties, and northern Lawrence County. That will continue its eastern push. Would not be surprised to see this tornado warning extended over into western Johnson County. It is going to go until 8:15, so we have about 14 minutes left on this warning, as well as the other one in downtown Dublin, and that will continue its eastern push across Lawrence County. Let's take a look at the big picture view where severe thunderstorm warning. Oh, actually, we just got an update right there as we were talking about it. So we now see this tornado warning up to the north, this couplet that started over by the Twiggs County radar, so around Jeffersonville, where we had an observed tornado tag. That is continuing to push over into western Johnson County. So west of Wrightsville, go ahead and treat yourself like you are within this tornado warning. Then down to the south, this is encompassing downtown Dublin. Again, the possible rotation does look a little bit south of downtown Dublin, but still some heavy rain and some gusty winds about to make their way in to the downtown Dublin corridor. Let's go ahead and take a pop up at the Skycam. It's beginning to get messier and messier up here in the top right of your screen, where we are continuing to watch a lot of wet roads, a lot of cars that are still out on the roads right now. So if you do know anyone that's out and about right now making their way through downtown Dublin, go ahead and tell them to try to pull over under some form of at least some covering, because it's going to be heavy rain and you're not going to be able to see much directly ahead of you. If I kept it on the Skycam view for maybe about another 10 minutes, you would see what I'm talking about. But I want to continue to make sure that we're covering these tornado warnings. And there's some areas directly south of Dublin that I think warrant a little bit more focus on as of right now. So it's 3 tornado warnings as a whole, and they are all in the northern half of Lawrence County, western Johnson County, and all the way over into that southeast corner of Wilkinson County. That's where that possible rotation is, right there on the county line of Wilkinson, getting ready to move over into western Johnson County. And then farther down to the south, we see this heavy band of rain getting ready to move into downtown Dublin. And within it, we do see that possible rotation that is going to be a little bit south of downtown. However, we are going to continue to treat this as a confirmed tornado on the ground. I think that's what you should treat it as, and continue to exercise all the caution that you would during severe weather like this that is continuing to move through. Not the most definitive signature. We'll be very thankful for that, and we'll keep our fingers crossed that it does remain that way. Looks like we also just got an update of that severe thunderstorm warning that is continuing to crowd the downtown Dublin area, and it's going to extend out of central Georgia over to Emmanuel County, areas like Swainsboro, and that goes into my messaging as well. Soperton, Alamo, Vidalia, Swainsboro, Wrightsville, you guys have kind of been the last left out of all of this so far. This is what's coming into your area. So not necessarily a confirmed tornado on the ground per se, but some severe thunderstorms that are packing a punch with some straight line winds that are very gusty, that are downing trees, that are downing power lines, and some embedded pockets of rotation that can and have produced some spin-up tornadoes, resulting in a good deal of damage back into Houston County, reports in Macon County, probably over a lot of areas in central Georgia. I just haven't had a chance to really gather all of those reports per se just yet. Let's go. Just making sure I'm not missing anything necessarily that is going to be popping up on all the warning updates. There's a lot of warnings that are going to continue to pop up and get canceled, so I apologize that maybe I'm a little bit late to issue something about one, but I am trying to stay mainly on top of these two tornado warnings where the rotation is just south of downtown Dublin, it does appear. The downtown Dublin skycam is looking pretty messy, very limited visibility. However, not necessarily seeing anything possibly on the ground in the form of maybe even a twister or such. But I-16 moving over to the east. Highway 19, 319, 441, and we are going to continue to watch this couplet push over to the east. Kind of parallel to I-16, but just to the north of it, really in between I-16 and downtown Dublin. If you live in East Dublin, you live in Dublin, you live over in the Catlin area, go ahead and make your way indoors, go ahead and make your way into that interior-most room that we continue to reiterate early this morning. Let's go over into western Johnson County. Now we are starting to see this couplet maybe creep over the county line, but not necessarily too definitive in nature, where we kind of see this bright pocket of maybe some yellow-orange and maybe a little bit of a wiggle and a wobble. That is going to start to sprout maybe something in the form of possible rotation as it continues to move over to the east into western Johnson County. Some localized areas, Tucker's Crossroad, kind of in the near vicinity of this. And then Georgia Highway 57 moving from west to east or east to west outside of Wrightsville or going into downtown Wrightsville. That's where that couplet is right now. It's really right here on the kind of three corners area. Well, I guess not anymore. It just moved with the latest radar scan. More so on the county line of Lawrence and Johnson counties. And actually, I'm going to pop it back up over here because this did just catch my eye. That's what downtown Dublin looks like right now. That is some very heavy rain. That is some very gusty winds that we are continuing to see. Maybe the stoplights blow a little bit, not to the degree that we saw maybe during Hurricane Helene, but I mean, I haven't seen water coming down on the skycam this hard in quite some time. So whether you're walking out to just heavy rain, whether you're walking out to gusty winds or even a tornado-warned storm, you are going to want to rethink those plans. Just stay indoors while the heaviest impacts do come through. I promise you, they're only going to last about 15 to 30 minutes, and then they are going to finally get that leading edge out of the picture. And after the leading edge passes, you have some rain showers that are lingering on the backside. It's a whole lot lighter in nature, maybe some pockets of some steady rain, but nowhere near as dark as a lot of this red that you do see within this line that is producing tornado-warned storms. So that's where we're left with. Northernmost tornado warning is going to be in western Johnson County, and that's going to be in the northern portion of Lawrence County. And then the next one is going to be down to the south of downtown Dublin. It is encompassing downtown Dublin, and continue to treat it like there is a confirmed tornado for the duration of this warning until 8:15, about 8 minutes left, 7.5 minutes left on this tornado warning. And this is where the possible couplet is going to be, southeast of Dublin. But once again, just because downtown Dublin doesn't look to be directly where this couplet is, continue to make sure that you are inside within some shelter. East Dublin, Highway 199, getting over to Catlin, getting over to Highway 29, Highway 26, Highway 80 going out of Dublin over towards the east, towards Swainsboro. And then let's go even a little bit farther within this, yes, tornado warning that goes just to the edge of Lawrence County. So Bruton on the northern side of this, it does appear that the rotation is appearing less and less impressive, but also you're right on the border of this tornado warning. If you are in Bruton, go ahead and treat it like you are within that tornado warning and seek some shelter. And I would go ahead and plan on trying to seek some shelter in Adrian, right on the southern edge of Johnson County, just before you get over into areas of Emmanuel County and Trutland County. So that is a promising sign that we are seeing some weakening, but once again, we've continued to see weakening, then re-strengthening, weakening, and re-strengthening within this line as a whole all throughout the morning. But let's go ahead and go back to your radar image, where now that we are starting to see some weakening, let's pop this up. And let's go over this again because I have not done this in quite a while. I want to go ahead and tell people who is in the all clear, and it's a majority of central Georgia. If you are on the right side of this line or on this line, treat it like you are still not in the actual clear right now. We still have this line of severe and some tornado-warned storms pushing over to the east. Everyone over to the left side of this line, you are in the all clear, but grab the rain jacket as you head out the door because take a look at that. That is widespread rain, whether it's light, whether it's a little bit steady in nature, but the severe weather is over. The severe weather potential is over after that line does push out of east central Georgia. So let's go ahead and take a look at all of these watches and warnings, which we actually got a new one up here near the Augusta area. So if you have plans or know anyone that's heading up to the I-20 corridor, heading up to Augusta this morning, may want to tell them to pull over and make sure that they are avoiding the brunt of those impacts as this line does push over to the east along I-20. Still a severe thunderstorm warning in place for Hancock County, but I think you're basically in the all clear. This line beginning to move out of West Washington County over into the downtown Sandersville area, a couple lightning strikes, and then you get down into Johnson County and northern Lawrence County. That's where your 2 tornado-warned storms are within this line of still severe thunderstorm warning. So if this tornado warning does expire, doesn't mean you're in the all clear. We still have the severe thunderstorm warning that will continue to go over towards the east into our easternmost periphery here in central Georgia. And once again, we are continuing to watch for kind of that S shape, the wiggle and wobble, a little bit of a snake is what we have been referring to it as so far this morning. Not seeing anything that is overly impressive, but this is still a tornado-warned storm that we will continue to not take very lightly throughout the rest of this morning. And then that will continue its push over to the east out of Dublin and East Dublin, and hopefully over to the county line and eventually out of central Georgia eventually. But in the direct path of that would be Adrian down in the southern portion of Johnson County, And then up here, also not anything that's really definitive of possible rotation, but still a tornado-warned storm that is making a beeline path over to downtown Wrightsville. Go ahead and make sure that you are making plans to get inside as of right now if you are over in Johnson County. Seeing a lot more reports of some damage, which is not what you want to see early this Thursday morning. A couple of those are outside of central Georgia. Let's see. Oh, wow. So I don't know if you remember a little bit ago, we were talking about the downtown Dublin sky cam, and it did appear to have a little bit of a tint on it. Didn't know if I was just seeing some things, but I did just hear from someone with the EMS, the Heartland EMS down in Lawrence County. He said that wasn't a camera glitch. The sky went from red to pink to orange before the clouds moved in. If that's not an ominous scene, I don't know what is, seeing the sky change colors like that. So that's just pretty crazy. One of the probably most eventful days of weather I have covered in my short time so far as a meteorologist, and we are going to continue to keep you covered for how long that you need to be updated early this morning. But it is 8:12 so far. 2 tornado warnings that are still in place, and they are set to both expire at 8:15. Hopefully after this, we aren't seeing any signs of rotation, but I'm just going to continue to stay here on air while we cover these severe thunderstorm warnings, given the fact that all of these winds and the possible rotation signatures have just been continuing to misbehave this morning. They've been weakening and they've been re-strengthening. So we are going to continue to monitor this push of these severe thunderstorm warnings as they push out of central Georgia. Once I can give you the all clear, we will finally take it off air, and hopefully we can go assess the damage that has been done, or hopefully you can just continue about your daily routine if you are not going to have to deal with anything in the way of damage. So according to the velocity map, it's not really looking like anything definitive. Once again, there are some gusty winds that are going to continue to be present in Dublin, I do believe. However, as this line does push farther to the east, this kind of deferring color line where I'm drawing my finger along, that is actually going to be where we're going to continue to watch those gustiest straight line winds push back over to the east. Again, Adrian, Soperton, down to Mount Vernon, Wrightsville, you guys over here in our eastern and southeastern periphery, along with other areas like Alamo, Lumber City, I said Mount Vernon already, but also Vidalia, and getting up into Swainsboro, Oak Park, and areas like Toombs and Emmanuel counties, you guys are still going to see the brunt of the impacts with this line that is continuing to push in. But I don't imagine it's going to hold together hopefully too much longer, because remember we were talking about that gradual weakening trend as it pushed over to the east. Haven't necessarily seen that so far, but it does look like It is a little bit weaker maybe than what it was farther over to the west, where it was just tornado warning after one after another. We continue to watch them pop up occasionally, but right now what we're looking out for is we're getting close to just over a minute and some change until both these tornado warnings are set to expire. Let's take a look at what the National Weather Service is saying. Not seeing too many new updates. Seeing a lot of cancellations of severe thunderstorm warnings and counties taken out of the tornado watch. Let's go ahead and circle back to that if we have a new update. This isn't entirely accurate, so I won't continue to show it. Obviously, Twiggs County, Pulaski, Wilcox, you guys are already in the all clear this morning, but we continue to see these counties trimmed out, which is just at least a positive sign for morale purposes, if you will. But going back into your current live radar image, that is where we are continuing to monitor these 2 tornado-warned storms for maybe about 20 more seconds, and then I imagine they will be allowed to expire at the end of their time at 8:15. And once again, okay, and if these both pop away and I'm not seeing any more come out, I'm going to toss back to the desk real quick. I don't want to go entirely off air because, once again, I have been seeing this rotation spike up kind of out of nowhere. And there it goes. Both the tornado warnings that were currently active have been allowed to expire as they've moved into the eastern portion of Lawrence County. So what we're left with now are going to be 2 very large severe thunderstorm warnings from Hancock County all the way down as far south as Telfair, Wheeler, Montgomery, and areas as far southeast as Toombs and Emmanuel counties. You guys have yet to really see the impacts down here in the southernmost box. So go ahead and brace yourself. You are going to see an uptick in the winds. The rain is going to be very heavy, and we're going to continue to keep a close eye on that possible circulation as it pushes down to the southeast here in central Georgia. But otherwise, I'm going to send it back to Connor and Megan really quick if we have some more updates that we can give you. A very eventful morning here in central Georgia, to say the least, so we're going to continue to gather as much information as we can to help you about your daily routine. Megan, Connor?
Alrighty, thank you so much, Alex, for those updates, and thanks for sticking with us all morning as we continue to track the latest with the severe weather that's moving through our area. Just another reminder for you on all the power outages that we're seeing. Many people in our area seeing power outages right now. More than 10,000 of you are in the dark this morning. About 5,700 Georgia Power customers are without power. Nearly 1,100 Flint Energy customers don't have power. And 2,000 of you who utilize Chris County Power Commission do not have power. Also right now, tracking the latest when it comes to our school delays that we're seeing. Within the last 30 minutes, we've learned that Houston County schools did have a delayed start. Middle school students should already be in the classroom. They started at 8. High school will start in the next few minutes at 8:30. Our elementary students will go back at 9.
Now, Bibb County students are on a delayed start today. Those high schools will start at 8:30, elementary 9:20, middle schools 10:05. Over in Monroe County, those schools will start a little bit later at 9 this morning to wait the storm out.
That same goes for Windsor Academy and CFCA starting at 9. Tatnall Square Academy will not be starting their day until 10. I also wanted to give you an update out of Macon County because we did know that they will be on a delayed start. We were told that buses will start running in just the next few minutes at 8:30. Their school day is going to start at 9:30. That goes for our Macon County students.
We're also told that Baldwin County students will not be marked as tardy today. Jones County schools, they're excusing absences due to that weather. They say buses are out and running right now, though some facilities don't have power. So right now they are kind of prioritizing those facilities and pickup locations that do have power. I have a couple others for you that we were collecting as Alex was in that warning right there. Dublin City Schools, those students were already in the classroom, so they were safe and following their severe weather protocol, as well as Windsor Academy. Did you do Windsor? I can't remember. Windsor is 8:30 for a staff report. School starts at 9. FPD, again, delayed start at 10. Twiggs County, no changes. They were just monitoring the weather, saying all students are safe. Monroe, delayed start, 9 o'clock. Again, you said Peach County has resumed. Parents use the Here Comes the Bus app, so that way you can know when it's on the way. Then Lawrence County, all of those students were safe. Same goes for Wilkinson as well, so those districts are all operating as normal.
Yeah, right now we're also hearing about some damage and blocked roads that you guys are seeing. Officials are asking you to stay away from the Highway 42 South area, especially near the roundabout. There is a tree and power lines down in that area.
Now, the same goes for Sharp Street in Monroe. Also, now a tree down at Montpelier Road in the area of Pecan Circle. We've also heard reports about a semi-truck turned over on 75 South in Peach County over near where the Buc-ee's is. There's also some trees blocking State Highway 90 in Dooley County. Of course, if you do not have to be out on the roads this morning, please just stay at home if you were in these stormy areas.
This morning, we also spoke with Houston County Fire Chief Chris Stoner. At the time, we asked him what damages they were seeing. At that moment, he said they were seeing some branches on the ground. I know, as Alex reported to us earlier, there was some damage around the Highway 96 and Highway 41 areas that was being reported. So if you can safely, when you can, get out and send us any pictures, you can do so. Go ahead and message us, and we'll show those off when it's safe to do so. Crews are continuing to check that area out in Houston County. If you did need to stop by any of the Warner Robins non-essential government offices this morning, the city did tell us that they will be opening those doors at 9 a.m., so just under an hour. Alrighty, I think we're going to go ahead and either go to break or check
back in with Alex, I believe. Alex?
Yes, if we can take it back over here really quick. Obviously, we have no tornado warning storms that are left on our satellite and radar image. But we can't pop it up. Is my mic working right now? I might be running a little bit.
Keep going.
I'm a little bit low on batteries. Would one of y'all mind going and grabbing some
you.
more? But yes, we are continuing to track our live radar image, where we do have 2 severe thunderstorm warnings that are going to be in place for East Central Georgia right now. They are very widespread, and they are mainly going to be from Washington County all the way down into Wheeler and Montgomery counties. Stand with me real quick as I replace these batteries. Mic check 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, good as new. That's what happens when you are on air for quite a while and you're talking quite a while. The battery gets drained really, really quickly. But this line right here, this band of red that is stretching from north of Sandersville all the way through Johnson County, the easternmost edge of Lawrence County, portions of western Treutlen County, and all the way down into Wheeler and Montgomery counties. That's what we're continuing to watch. But overall, I'm seeing a very similar trend that what I saw on Future View this morning, timing-wise and intensity-wise, where we are watching this line almost try to break apart a little bit down in our southeasternmost counties. So hopefully it's continuing to be a sign of things to come, where we can officially give the all clear, but I'm not wanting to let my guard down whatsoever with this, because we continue to monitor possible areas of rotation that have been tightening up really, really quickly. I mean, tornado warnings have been popping up left and right. At one point, we were having to talk about all of downtown Macon and most of Perry and Warner Robins within tornado warnings. So that's a lot of localized areas where I really like to go very local with the roads during tornado warnings, but it's hard to, because you have to cover a very widespread area and a very populated area. So we are going to continue to move over to the east along I-16, the severe thunderstorm warning. It is going to be, I would say, pretty long lasting for, I think it's probably about the next 24 minutes. Is it going to pop up? Yes. Okay, 8:45. I don't imagine all of central Georgia is going to be within the severe thunderstorm warning. However, or for that entire duration, I think closer to around 8:30, maybe just past 8:30, we can officially issue the all clear here in central Georgia. Maybe even, yeah, probably within the next 10 to 15 minutes, I would say. But this is going to continue to move out over into Emmanuel County and down into Toombs County, but I'm not really seeing any bands of some heavy rain that are going to be present besides Johnson County. That is moving over to the east. So the northernmost component of these severe thunderstorm warnings, they are going to pack more of a punch than the southernmost component. So the areas like Soperton, down to Vidalia, getting into Mount Vernon and Montgomery County, these areas are going to see some, I wouldn't even say thunderstorms. We don't even see anything in the way of lightning. We'll continue to keep a close eye on that rotation, because lightning has not really been too much of a factor. Yes, it has been scattered about central Georgia, but typically with some severe thunderstorm warnings, we're watching a lot of lightning very frequently. We're talking about a couple seconds in between lightning strikes. That hasn't really been the case. It has just been some very heavy rain and some rotational winds that have been the main concern that have sprouted a lot of damage so far. In fact, I think in central Georgia as a whole, we might see like one lightning strike, and I think that's just to the northeast of Sandersville as that line makes its way over into Jeffersonville. So now taking a look, or not Jeffersonville, excuse me, Jefferson County, over towards Louisville. So now let's take a look at the heavy band of rain, which is now moving out of Wrightsville, this pocket of some really dark colors just to the south of Wrightsville. And that heavy band of rain will continue to move over into those areas like Louisville, Wadley, and down to Emmanuel County in Swainsboro. and starting to get down into Toombs County eventually, where it's more so just some patchy pockets of that heavy precipitation. So Emmanuel, Lawrence, Telfair, and Toombs counties are what we are continuing to see. But once again, I don't want to let my guard down whatsoever with these severe thunderstorm warnings until it is officially all clear. For the most part, I would say about 90 to 95% of central Georgia is going to be in the all clear. If you are back over to the west of this heavy red color that we are seeing in our easternmost counties, you're good to go. Go ahead and assess things like damage. Make sure that you are walking out the door with your rain jacket, and continue to make sure that you are heeding the proper precautions. From the image that I did see at my house on 96 and 41, there are a lot of trees that are down. So that is resulting in probably a lot of power lines being down. So make sure if you do see anything in the way of that damage with some power lines possibly, maybe in the way of some more severe damage that is not necessarily the best idea for you to take care of, make sure that you are calling the local EMA directors, you are calling local officials for those folks to get out and assess the damage and fix it as quick as possible so we can get back into our regular routine. But once again, these two areas of the severe thunderstorm warnings going until about 8:30, I believe, and then 8:45. And actually, let me go ahead and check back with this. Special weather statement. Okay, well, that is a promising sign to see. Strong thunderstorms will impact portions of north central Emmanuel, southeastern Warren, Glasscock, southeastern Washington, northeastern Johnson, and Jefferson counties through 9 a.m. That is going to be this segment right here. That is going to be the northernmost component of the severe thunderstorm warning. I imagine this warning is going to expire at the top of the 8:30 a.m. hour, which it is set to, I believe. Double check, 8:30. So, special weather statement. That's a criteria below a severe thunderstorm warning, which means that it is approaching non-severe levels as it continues its push over to the east. But we'll check in with the base velocity because, once again, just trying to make sure that nothing wants to act up in the possible couplet of rotation like we have seen all morning long. Down here, it's a bit of a fuzzier image. Looks like we just got a new severe thunderstorm warning down to the southeast of us. But this is a very fuzzy image, not seeing any signs of possible rotation down in southeast central Georgia. And we are going to continue to monitor that. I think 8:30, it might be when we're able to give the all clear officially. Honestly, I would probably be comfortable with any other severe weather system giving the all clear entirely right now, even with these pockets of some red. But just given what has happened so far this morning, I want to make sure that I'm being 100% sure. I'm double checking my answers, and I'm going to make sure that this is going to continue to be a thing of the past. But once again, probably about 5 to 10 more minutes left on maybe the potential severe weather risk with this. And I think this is the main area that I'm really watching right now. Southeast of Wrightsville, moving over into the eastern half of Johnson County now, over towards Kite, and then getting down closer to Adrian. We do see a pocket of some pretty heavy rain. So that's where we stand. 2 severe thunderstorm warnings left. We'll check back in at 8:30, maybe. Some of these boxes are going to be allowed to expire as we get to 8:30, maybe even, probably not this one that's a little bit farther south, but it will be pushing out of central Georgia. While I kind of work to gather some data and see what the deal is going to be with that and try to make sure that we can issue the all clear before going off air, I'm going to send it back to Connor and Megan for some more reports on some damage and some information that you need to know while heading out and about this Thursday.
Alrighty, well, thanks so much for sticking with us this morning and for watching Alex Pry as he continues to track the latest updates that we're seeing here throughout our area. Don't forget that you can always track the latest with our 24/7 radar loop on 13 WMAZ Plus. If you haven't already downloaded it on your TV, you should do so. You can watch things for free over there.
Yeah, we're about to send it over here. If you're watching us on television over the broadcast, you're about to start watching CBS Mornings, though we are going to continue our coverage on the 13 WMAZ Plus app. That's the one that you download on your TV, on your Roku, your Fire, your Apple TV, things like that. We will continue monitoring both, not only these storms as they make their way out of our area, but also as well as we're starting to receive damage reports. We're starting to hear more from school districts about their plans. We are hearing more and more about these power outages. At my last check on my math here, we had well over 10,000 power outages.
Yeah.
So we are just going to continue to track all of this. I know we're going to talk to, I think, maybe Fire Chief Chris Stoner.
Yeah, in Houston County. I know we were seeing some damage, as Alex Pry was just mentioning just a few minutes ago. Houston County did see some damage in the area of Highway 96 and 41. Of course, it should be safe to do so, but when you feel comfortable to do so, you can always send us images to our 13 WMAZ newsroom. you can send that to our email at news@13wmaz.com. Of course, only when it is safe to do so. We'll continue to have our crews assessing that area this morning and checking in with Fire Chief Chris Stoner as the day rolls on. Of course, don't forget the several schools are on delays.
Right.
Find all that information over on 13wmaz.com. We'll be back over on 13WMAZ Plus. We're back at 8:31 this morning. Thanks so much for sticking with us over here on 13 WMAZ Plus all morning long, tracking the latest with the severe weather that's been moving through our area.
Yeah, it's finally starting to kind of make its way out of our viewing area, more hitting those eastern counties, and it's working its way in towards the Augusta media market. Though our Alex Pry has been at the weather wall for probably at least 2 hours now, tracking all the latest. Alex, let's go ahead and give folks the good news that this stuff is hopefully on its way out.
Yes, I think I am about ready to go ahead and issue the all clear, as we are dealing with one more severe thunderstorm warning, but most areas within the severe thunderstorm warning have already seen the brunt of the impacts move out of here. So we're still dealing with some heavy rain in eastern Johnson County, a couple patches of it as we go across Trutland, Montgomery counties, and now beginning to move over into areas like Emmanuel County and Toombs counties. However, this is looking to move kind of below severe levels. We saw this northernmost component of this line up here moving out of Washington County into Glasscock and Jefferson counties. That got the special weather statement tag. So that's a step below your severe thunderstorm warning criteria. But this system as a whole is not necessarily completely done. And you can see this is indicated by this tornado warning that is up here to the east of Warrenton. So just south of I-20, excuse me, moving over towards the Augusta area, there is another tornado warned storm, which I couldn't even tell you how many that is on the number scale of things so far. But the good news here in central Georgia is, number one, you look at everything, it is messy outside. So we are seeing some residual rainfall that's going to be a lot lighter and a lot steadier in nature, and it's not going to act up and possibly pop maybe some defined areas of some rotation up on our velocity map. This has been what I've been hovering on for pretty much most of the morning, because this has been telling the story. These tornado warned storms where we have reports of observed tornadoes on the ground, and just judging from some of the damage photos I've seen in portions of Houston County, right on the Peach County line, Highway 96 and Highway 41. That is looking where we did possibly see a tornado touchdown and go through some heavily wooded areas, but also resulting in some damage over there along the Highway 96, Lake Joy Road areas over there in southern Houston County. Pretty close to Houston County High School. So hopefully we are going to continue to not get too many reports throughout the rest of this morning, but we will be providing you with all those updates throughout the remainder of today here in Central Georgia. Everything you need to know about your daily routine and about continuing about your Thursday as we get ready to head into the weekend. But I'm going to go ahead and say right now, this is, I can't even describe what it looks like, but it doesn't look like much of anything. It is not impressive whatsoever on the velocity map, but there are still some batches of heavy rain that are moving out. And if you are watching from, say, Emmanuel County, you are watching down in Toombs County, you might notice the rain pick up a little bit, some gusty winds. After that passes through, you are good to go. So Central Georgia, I'm going to go ahead and issue it officially all clear from severe weather. So it was quite the morning in terms of what we are forecasting, or what we had in the forecast, which we did get a tornado watch. I'm going to go for a little bit longer if that's okay. They're talking to me in my ear. I got a lot of things I want to talk about because we do go into the weekend now and we have to shift our focus and continue to move forward. But first things first, all clear from severe weather here in Central Georgia. And it was a very impactful morning where we did get this issued overnight, where it was a tornado watch, which is still in place, but most of these counties are going to be taken out as we get to the top of the hour at 9 a.m. So it was highlighted until 8 a.m. I was going to change the graphic, and that's when things started firing up. So I didn't have any time to change that graphic, but we are all clear in terms of the severe weather risk. Let's pop it over to our sky cams really quick to get a good picture view of what's going on right now outside. Still dealing with your fair share of rain. This sky cam down here in Warner Robins, actually let's drag this back over here just a little bit so I can kind of talk about what I'm seeing, and I don't see a whole lot of anything. That's a promising sign because, like I told you, maybe a mile away from the Skycam view at CGTC, there is some reported damage all across Houston County. It does look like folks are continuing about their regular routine, and they are going to continue to make their way out and about, obviously with the raincoat. That's going to be what you need for the next couple of hours. The rain's actually not going to get out of here until we get closer to, say, probably around 10 to 11 a.m., but it's nothing in the way of severe weather. Downtown Dublin, we actually saw a peak of sunshine when I was taking a look at the sky cam a little bit earlier, but that was a very promising view because obviously it reminds us there always is a light at the end of the tunnel, even after a very, very messy morning like this. Downtown Macon, quite ominous, plenty of wet roads and plenty of those lower level clouds, and it still looks pretty dark off in the distance here at the west at the Georgia National Fairgrounds, but who knows how long ago that Skycam image was because it continues to freeze up on us pretty frequently. So what we have noticed over the course of this morning, we started out with temperatures in the upper 60s and low 70s, and we're still holding on to those values in south and southeast central Georgia, but here comes the northwesterly winds ushering in a cooler air mass, which is actually continuing to cool the numbers down as we have plenty of cloud cover present. And I think we're actually going to hover maybe in the mid 50s for lowest temperatures this morning here over the next couple of hours. Not the typical time that we would hit those low temperatures, say right around sunrise, but we have a lot of cloud cover, and that's a big reason why. Let's pop it back over to our satellite and radar picture, kind of going in chronological order, but a little bit of a more in-depth forecast right here. And I obviously don't have a lot of pause points. I've been working in real time on the satellite and radar to show you what's been going on. Let's pop up the satellite imagery because I think this is also going to continue to tell a pretty good story. Well, not seeing any signs of clearing anytime soon, that's to say the least. Back over to the west, to the northwest, we are seeing maybe some breaks in that cloud cover finally. But I do assure you, as we head farther along into the afternoon, we are going to continue to see clearing in the clouds. Hold on, I promise we're going to get there slowly but surely. There we go. The systems have been working overtime this morning, that's for sure as well. 9 a.m., starting to see some of those gaps in cloud cover creep in. I think it might be a little bit closer to 10 a.m. before we see that. But take a look at this. 5 and 6 o'clock. It's a windy into the day. It's going to be cooler for your high temperatures today, but it will be very refreshing, at least for myself, to finally see some sunshine. And we are going to have plenty of sunshine throughout your Friday and going into your Saturday. It's not until we get into Saturday night, more so transitioning into Sunday, that we start to see the winds that will shift direction. As we go, I think a little bit later or a little bit earlier into Sunday, the southerly component to the winds is going to usher in some more moisture back into your forecast, and that's going to create some scattered rain chances ahead of a frontal boundary, but it's also going to result in quite the drastic warm-up. But before we get there, let's talk about the cool down. Let's go in chronological order. Your morning low today around 53 degrees, and like I said, we're going to hit that over the next hour, 2 or 3. 37 degrees for a morning low tomorrow. Make plans to trade that rain gear for the winter gear possibly, because 37, not the lowest that we've seen as of recently. Well, actually, I go back on that. It probably is one of the lowest temperatures we have seen recently. We haven't been down in the 30s in quite a while, and we are going to feel winter's chill. And a reminder that we're not officially into spring just yet, Friday and Saturday, but we do warm up very quickly into Sunday and Monday mornings in light of the warmer and the more humid air that will continue to move through. How about your afternoon highs? Lowest today, 70 degrees tomorrow, still a pretty pleasant atmosphere. Upper 70s and near 80 by the time we wrap up the weekend. But Monday, another frontal boundary does come through. Not looking like as impressive rain chances as this one, very thankfully. But it is going to result in another cool down. And then that is going to send us into a chilly St. Patrick's Day forecast. Here's a look at your 7-day, where we will see 80 is going to be the peak of the roller coaster. And your 7-day is best described by just that, being a roller coaster. Up, down, up, down. There you go, 80, 68, 55 as you roll into St. Patrick's Day. And then what we're going to turn our attention to is these morning lows for Tuesday and Wednesday next week. We have the highlighted potential for some frost and freeze products to maybe be issued, and we would issue a weather impact alert for that. Given how warm we've been, a lot of plants and a lot of crops are already starting to bloom, maybe getting a premature start to that. But obviously, you're going to want to make sure that you are protecting those plants and those crops that are more susceptible to being damaged by some colder temperatures, because we have a high likelihood of that happening next Tuesday into Wednesday. Still a lot of details to fine tune. This is about 5 to 6 days out, but we will continue to keep you updated. That's the next thing on our radar. But very thankfully, I can report that this 90% chance of showers and storms is gone. Probably should have been 100% chance in all retrospect. But nonetheless, you got the message. The weather impact alert went out yesterday. We saw the tornado watch overnight. And obviously, over the last 24 hours, we did really see the potential for this event to unfold in terms of widespread severe weather. But we won't have to worry about that as we head into the beginning of the weekend. Welcoming back some sunshine. You'll need to dress in layers for Friday and Saturday. And hopefully you are going to enjoy the outdoor weather this weekend after it was a pretty eventful end to the work week. And we'll keep our fingers crossed that at least one good thing come out of this severe weather event, and that was going to be some higher rainfall totals. So we'll report on that once we gather all the data, but there's a lot more damage and a lot more power outages and a lot more interruptions to your daily routine to report on before we get there. Promise that we will, but for now, I'll go ahead and send it off and sign off, at least for the all clear in terms of severe weather. I'll come back and do another breakdown of the forecast if we need to, as we fill this time until the 9 a.m. hour. But until then, I'll send it back to you, Megan and Connor.
Alrighty, thank you so much, Alex. Of course, we want to just remind you that when it's safe to do so, now that there is the pretty much all clear, you can send in any pictures of any storm damage or videos that you're seeing. Go ahead and text those to 478-752-1309, that number that you're seeing right there on your screen, 478-752-1309. Make sure you tell us where you took that photo from. So when you send us the photo, you can also tell us your name if you'd like, but go ahead and make sure you tell us where you're sending that photo from. Again, please only send us those photos and your videos when it is safe for you to do so.
All right, thank you, Megan. Now, of course, the storm has impacted, it kind of hit right at those times that the kids were about to go to school or on their way to school. So this has impacted some school start times here in Central Georgia. I have a roundup for you here now. In Bibb County, they are on a delayed start. High school started about 10 minutes ago at 8:30. Elementary schools in Bibb will start at 9:20, then middle schools 10:05. Houston County buses are back up and running again, but they are on a delayed start. Middle school started back at 8, high school 8:30, then elementary schools start at 9. In Macon County, they have a delayed start for 9:30 as well. Windsor Academy, staff needed to be there at 8:30. School starts at 9. CFCA has a start time of 9 o'clock this morning. FPD, First Presbyterian Day School, starts at 10 this morning. Jones County, the buses are moving again, but they say they have a lot of power outages out there in the area. So the district is prioritizing dropping off at locations that do have power this morning. Jones County also says that if you choose not to send your children to school today, that will be an excused absence. Also, Monroe County is on a delayed start at 9 o'clock this morning. Twiggs County, no changes. Peach County, those buses are running again. They ask parents to use the Here Comes the Bus app so that you can track that bus on the way to your house. Lawrence County, all of the students, they say, were safe and at school when this hit. No change to any start times from them. Wilkinson County, same as well. All students stay safe. Schools operating as normal. Last one for you, Stratford Academy is on a delayed start this morning. Students who go to Stratford, that is, will start at 10 o'clock.
Alrighty, we're going to continue to track the latest updates that we're seeing with the weather over on 13WMAZ.com and later in our show. But let's go ahead and transition now and give you some of the local news that we're following here in our area. This morning, we're working to learn more about a deadly shooting that happened in Dodge County. According to the GBI, deputies found Jonathan Groves shot and killed at an Eastman home on Tuesday night. Deputies found Rex Giddens in the woods near the house. Right now, investigators believe that Giddens shot Groves and then himself. Right now, we don't know what led up to that shooting. Of course, we're going to keep working to get you answers and update you as those details come in. Also this morning, a third man is now under arrest in connection with a deadly Macon shooting. The Bibb County Sheriff's Office arrested 29-year-old Otis Hill. He's charged with the murder of 35-year-old Chavez Adams. Adams was shot and killed on Florence Avenue in February. Two other men, you may remember we told you, Jeremy Hill and Malik Jenkins, were arrested last month. They face murder charges. And a new subdivision could be on the way to our South Bibb area after planning and zoning leaders approved a proposal near Lake Tobosoffke. The project would bring 60 homes to nearly 18 acres on Mosley-Dixon Road. Planning leaders say the project could help address the area's housing shortage. Some people say they worry the development could lead to overcrowding and put more pressure on local resources. Officials say construction could start within the next 18 months. Of course, you can always go find all of these stories over on 13WMAZ.com. I think we're going to go ahead and take a quick break right here on 13WMAZ Plus. Make sure you stick with us. We're back at 8:47 this morning. Thanks so much for sticking with us. We're going to get you some national news this morning. The White House and global leaders say they'll release millions of barrels of oil from their reserves to combat gas price increases and disruption caused by the war in Iran. Wednesday, President Trump claimed the war was won while traveling to Ohio and Kentucky, but it comes as Iran continues to launch more attacks on its neighbors. Jared Hill has more.
Returning to Washington,
most people say it's already been won.
President Trump claiming victory in the war on Iran, even as Israel intercepted Iranian missiles over Tel Aviv. Speaking in Kentucky, Trump said the war will continue until the job is done.
We got to finish the job, right? We don't want to go back every 2 years.
The Pentagon says U.S. forces have hit nearly 5,000 targets in Iran over nearly 2 weeks, hundreds dead. Wednesday, Israel announced more strikes on Tehran. The UN Security Council has called on Iran to stop its retaliatory attacks on other Gulf states. But so far, Iran is not backing down. Its most recent strikes sparked fires in Bahrain, Dubai, and Oman. The Strait of Hormuz paralyzed after attacks on boats, including this Thai cargo ship and these oil tankers near Iraq.
This doesn't sound like a war that we can simply declare victory tomorrow.
In the turmoil, oil prices have spiked worldwide. One of the U.S.'s largest family-owned packaging companies says they're absorbing higher shipping costs, but can only do that for so long.
Consumers see that price reflected in the grocery store.
Now the U.S. and other nations in the International Energy Agency say they'll release 400 million barrels from their strategic petroleum reserves.
We're going to be doing it very quickly, and then we'll fill it up. We'll fill up our reserve.
The president says the U.S. will tap 172 million barrels starting next week.
Lawmakers that the first week of the war alone cost over $11 billion. Time now 8:49, and we are going to go ahead and check in with Chris Floor with Bibb County. Chris, thanks so much for joining us this morning. We've been hearing reports this morning about some damage, especially near the Tucker Road area. What can you tell us so far about the damage reports that you guys have been getting in? Alrighty, we're going to go ahead and try and check in with Mr. Floor a little bit later on. We'll keep you updated on the latest with the storm damage. We do want to let you know about some other storm damage that we've been getting reported about. We have an update out of Macon County for you. Roy Yoder with the county tells us currently 60 people are displaced along Sleepy Hollow Road because of some storm damage. Because of the level of damages, they say that you should not be trying to move throughout Macon County right now. And if for whatever reason you are headed into the county for work or some other purposes, they are advising against that. We are working to learn more details out of that area. Of course, we'll continue pushing for answers, and we'll get you the latest updates as we learn more out of that area. Of course, don't forget that if you do have storm damage photos, you can always send those to our newsroom. We'll continue to try and show those off throughout the remainder of the day. I think we're going to go ahead and get one more check-in with meteorologist Alex Pry. Alex.
Yes, thank you very much, Megan. Continuing to gather as many of those reports as we possibly can this morning. We're obviously continuing to get them in real time. And I did just realize it's been go, go, go this morning, so we are going to go ahead and roll the sleeves back down. The severe weather threat is over. I am happy to issue the all clear all across central Georgia this morning. So first things first, let's take a walk around the quad like we always like to do each and every morning. But it is not necessarily the best image to walk outside to. So what we are left with now is going to be residual rain. It's a whole lot lighter in nature than what we did see with that heavy band of showers and thunderstorms and even those tornado warned storms that moved in earlier. So now let's take a look at your current satellite and radar image, which is showing that we have widespread green, widespread yellow, even some pockets of some orange all across central Georgia. But the biggest thing that you are noticing is all of these yellow boxes. They have moved out over to the east, and our severe weather threat has ended. Even areas like Swainsboro and Vidalia, the brunt of the impacts has moved through. Maybe a little bit of heavy rain still left in Swainsboro, but all those areas on our periphery are not dealing with anything in the way of a severe weather risk whatsoever. So what's going to be in store now as we go into the end of the work week and the beginning of the weekend? How about a roller coaster ride of a 7-day forecast? Only a high of 65 throughout today, paired up with some windy conditions and plenty of sunshine. We'll keep sunshine in the forecast all the way through your Saturday, and a very quick warm up. But Friday and Saturday mornings, layer up. It is going to be a chilly environment where we will dip into the 30s for the first time, and another cool down will be incoming as we approach St. Patty's Day next Tuesday. So we'll focus more on the future as we go into the next couple of hours through the rest of this morning. Until then, we're going to take a quick break here on 13 WMAZ+.
Good morning. The time is now 8:55. I'm Megan Western. We're going to go ahead and get a quick look at all the top stories this morning. Right now, many of you in our central Georgia area are without power, about 10,000 of you to be more exact. About 5,700 of our Georgia Power customers are in the dark. Nearly 1,100 Flint Energy's customers don't have power. And 2,000 of the folks who utilize Crisp County Power Commission, we're hearing that they also are without power. We also want to give you the latest on the school delays that we have for you. We do now know that all of our Houston County students should be back in the classroom. Our last group of students to head back should have been elementary. They will start at 9. Bibb County students also saw a delay. High school, elementary school, and middle school should all be starting soon. High school actually started at 8:30. Elementary will start at 9:20. Our middle school students will start at 10:05. Students over in Monroe County will start in just a few minutes at 9. The same goes for Windsor Academy and CFCA. They will start at 9. Tatnall Square Academy will not start their day until 10 in the morning. Any of our Baldwin County students who were late to school today will be marked as will not be marked as tardy, that is. Jones County schools will be excusing absences due to the weather. Let's go ahead and get a check with Alex Pry.
Well, I hope your Thursday morning is continuing to be off to a pretty good start. Obviously, a very eventful morning, but I'm happy to report that the sleeves are down and the severe weather threat is going to be over here in central Georgia. So let's talk about what's in store now, because it is a very wet environment that you're walking outside to. Right now, taking a walk around the quad, plenty of water droplets and steady showers that we're getting an image of down off Cohen Walker Drive and Warner Robins. And cooler air is continuing to usher in behind this frontal boundary. It is producing some pretty gusty winds, so numbers down in the 50s, maybe feeling a little bit chilly, but overall a pretty good difference with your temperatures. 50s up to the northwest, and we're still dealing with some 70s down to the south and the southeast. So here's a look at your satellite and radar picture, which continues to show widespread rain, but it's a whole lot lighter in nature than this line of severe thunderstorms, which has exited out to the east here in central Georgia now. So what to expect for the next 3 days? Your weather impact alert is over, just haven't quite had the time to take it off this graphic. What we're heading into for the rest of the afternoon will be a high temperature of 65 degrees and plenty of sunshine later on today, but it is going to be a bit of a cooler into the work week, especially tomorrow morning and getting into your Saturday morning, where low temperatures are going to dip into the 30s for the first time in what seems like forever, since we have had a good stretch of the low and the mid 80s as of recently. For your 7-day forecast, it's quite a roller coaster ride. We are definitely going to feel like a whole bunch of different seasons for the next week in central Georgia. A very quick warm up though into Saturday and Sunday afternoons, where we're already flirting with the 80-degree mark once again. We'll start to get some southerly flow that ushers back in some scattered shower chances and another chance at rain ahead of a frontal boundary driving in Monday. Thankfully not looking anything like it did over the course of this morning, but then that is going to result in an even more substantial cool down and possible frost and freeze products as we go into next Tuesday for St. Patty's Day and next Wednesday. So thank you first and foremost for staying updated all morning long, and be prepared to break out that jacket for tomorrow morning.
Alrighty, thank you so much, Central Georgia, and thank you to Alex Pry for all of your updates. Don't forget, you can always find more of them over on 13 WMAZ+. Download it on your TV and watch for free.